Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio Chapter 51, Orochimaru. Become my subordinate. Orochimaru withdrew his killing intent when he saw that Yuzuru Uchiha remained completely unaffected. He took 2 steps forward. His right hand suddenly transformed into a thick, massive serpent that lunged straight at Yuzuru. The snake coiled tightly around Yuzuru's body, but his expression hardly changed. His scarlet Mangekyo Sharingan stared calmly at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, be my subordinate. The abrupt demand froze Orochimaru in place. He repeated uncertainly, your subordinate. Yuzuru nodded. The village of Konoha has grown rotten to its core. Why don't we tear it out together and reshape the shinobi world? We'll start by killing Hiruzen Sarutobi. Seeing the serious look on Yuzuru's face, Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh, amused and angry at once. They said the stronger an Uchiha was, the more insane they became. Apparently that was true. Kill Hiruzen Sarutobi, Orochimaru sneered. Do you have any idea who you're talking about? He's my teacher, my mentor. I'm the rightful heir to the title of Hokage, and you expect me to follow you. Yuzuru shrugged. Nothing is non-negotiable, only when you lack the right bargaining chips. Orochimaru, you've always been fascinated by immortality. I can provide you with research materials and equipment. All you need to do is devote yourself to the study of life itself, without wasting time on pointless battlefields like this. You should worry about surviving again me first. Orochimaru was done listening to a madman. At his command, the serpent tightened its grip, constricting Yuzuru's body with crushing force. A moment later, the shrill cry of 1,000 birds filled the air. Lightning exploded around Yuzuru, crackling over his skin. The massive snake turned to charred ash in an instant, trying to run. Orochimaru lunged toward Yuzuru, his body twisting in grotesque, impossible angles as he attacked. It's useless. Before these eyes, every attack is laid bare. Yuzuru's body moved like a butterfly dancing on the edge of a blade, always slipping away at the last possible moment. After a short but fierce exchange, Yuzuru deliberately pulled back to widen the distance between them. With Orochimaru's genius in research, someone like him couldn't simply be discarded. Even if Yuzuru won now, he knew that controlling Orochimaru would be impossible. If he wanted him to cooperate, it would have to wait until the right time in the future. From the very start, Yuzuru never intended to waste his Dijutsu power on this fight. Let's call it a day, shall we, Jana Tilda? With a casual motion, Yuzuru swiped his hand in front of him, and his entire figure vanished, erased as if he'd never been there. What a troublesome man. Orochimaru frowned deeply. He could tell Yuzuru had no real intent to fight him. After all that, the only thing he learned was that Yuzuru had mastered multiple elemental techniques. Looking toward the raging battle in the distance, Orochimaru sighed quietly. Even with today's counterattack, they'd achieved nothing. This battle would end only in Konoha's defeat. Damn it! A struggle to catch his breath, the earlier excitement long gone from his face. He had overestimated himself. Even with his lightning-release chakra mode, he had nearly died several times against Sakumo Hatache. Speed, power, precision. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, I would never have believed that someone could refine Kenjutsu to such an art. While it was covered in wounds, Sakumo still looked composed, gripping his short blade tightly as he pressed the attack. If I kill you, this battle might finally turn around. Sakumo inhaled deeply, gathering chakra through every fiber of his body until he and his blade seemed to become one. A dazzling arc of light flashed toward a can't dodge. A's eyes hardened. He poured what little chakra remained into his body. If he couldn't avoid it, then he'd take Sakumo down with him. Just as their blades were about to meet, a bolt of lightning crashed into A, knocking him aside. A booming, hearty voice followed. Picking on my son, are you? White Fang of the Leaf, let me face you myself. Hell stab, one finger Nukite. The third Raikage's fingers met Sakumo's short blade with a thunderous impact. The blade shattered into countless fragments, and Sakumo was sent flying from the sheer force. It's the third Raikage. Victory is ours. Brothers, charge with the Raikage-sama. Make those leaf bastards despair. Kumagakure is the strongest village. With their Raikage himself joining the fight, the shinobi of the hidden cloud surged forward like a storm, their morale soaring. The tide of battle turned in an instant. In the original story, the third Reikage once faced Anoki's 10,000-strong Iwagakure army alone, fighting for 3 days and nights before dying of exhaustion. That was how terrifying his power truly was. Ordinary attacks couldn't even scratch his body, while he could easily kill any opponent he faced. Under his onslaught, Konoha's formation quickly split apart. Damn it, why now of all times? Why is the third Reikage here? Are the Cloud Fools not afraid of losing their own cage on the battlefield? We can't hold them. Lord Orochimaru, Lord Sakumo, Lord Jiraiya, anyone please save us. Under the overwhelming pressure from Kumigakure's forces, Konoha's shinobi began to crumble. Even Sakumo, nearly drained of chakra, could only watch helplessly as the situation spiraled out of control. Thankfully, the sound of retreat drums echoed from the rear. Konoha's forces seized the chance, retreating desperately. At the rear guard, Jiraiya and Gamabunta stood shoulder to shoulder, unleashing a combined technique. Toad oil flame bullet. A wall of roaring fire surged forward, halting Kumigakure's pursuit. Moments later, a colossal serpent charged into their ranks, tearing through the battlefield. As much as the Cloud wanted to crush their fleeing foes, they couldn't allow their own to die so recklessly. The third Reikage and Killer Bee had no choice but to turn their attention to the rampaging Manda, Gamabunta, and Jiraiya. Under their protection, Konoha's shinobi finally escaped safely from the battlefield, but none of them felt relief. Only despair spread across their faces, despair that slowly turned into resentment, then fury. If not for the third Reikage's sudden appearance, they might have won today. At such a crucial moment, where was their Hokage? Chapter 52, Whose Fault Is It? After all, half a month later, as the new year approached, the hidden Cloud Village was lit up with lanterns and festive banners. Every villager's face shone with joy and celebration. The war between the hidden Cloud Village and the hidden Leaf Village had finally ended, with the Leaf's defeat and a massive indemnity payment. The outcome shocked nearly everyone. No one could have predicted that the Leaf, who had stood undefeated through the previous 2 great ninja wars, conquering other villages with unmatched power, would lose in a one-on-one conflict against the hidden Cloud. The entire ninja world trembled. Some marveled at the strength of the Cloud's shinobi, saying that even the Leaf's deep foundations couldn't withstand them. Some mocked the Leaf for their short-sightedness, for handing over a clan as powerful as the Uchiha without hesitation. Some regretted not offering greater benefits back then to win over the Uchiha themselves. Yet, despite differing opinions, one shared thought began to take root across the shinobi world. The Uchiha had proven through action why they were known as the foremost noble clan in the ninja world. The era of the Hidden Cloud Village had arrived. Hidden Cloud Village, Reikage Tower. The third Reikage clapped Yuzuru Uchiha heartily on the shoulder and led him toward the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Yuzuru, look at the villagers outside. They're all cheering for your achievements. You're the hero of our Hidden Cloud Village, Yuzuru replied calmly. I only played a supporting role. When it comes to fighting on the front lines, I didn't kill nearly as many as your men did. The third Reikage shook his head, his tone serious. You alone were worth 1,000 troops. Without you, this war wouldn't have gone nearly so smoothly. He wasn't flattering Yuzuru, just stating the truth. With Yuzuru's aid, the Cloud had complete knowledge of the Leaf's troop distribution, trap locations, and attack and defense strategies. It was as if they had fought with divine insight. Through countless wars, never before had the Reikage experienced such an effortless victory. Seeing Yuzuru remain unmoved, the Reikage continued. The Leaf's reparations have arrived, 10 billion ryo in total. The village will take 5 billion, and your Uchiha clan will take the other 5. What did you say? No problem. Yuzuru nodded under his direction. Few Uchiha clansmen had even taken part in the battle. To receive half of the indemnity was already more than satisfactory. The Reikage looked at him curiously. Yuzuru, you don't look as happy as I imagined. Under normal circumstances, being cast out by the Leaf and then crushing them in turn should have been satisfying, shouldn't it? Gazing out the window, Yuzuru spoke slowly. My goals don't end here. Those who intend to win in the end don't wear smiles on their faces. The Reikage blinked, his curiosity deepening. Then why did you have us accept the Leaf's offer of reparations and ceasefire? Why not push all the way to the Leaf village itself? Yuzuru shook his head. This money is enough for us to develop in peace for a while. Pressing the attack would only backfire. The Leaf's willingness to pay reparations had its reasons. Sand, stone, and mist were all watching hungrily from the sidelines, and the village itself had just suffered the chaos of the Ninetales rampage. Its people only wanted peace. But if pushed to the brink, the Leaf, and all the Land of Fire, would retaliate with everything they had. Then, it wouldn't just be Orochimaru, Sakumo Hatake, and Jiraiya taking the field. Tsunade might return to defend the village. Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura would likely don their armor once again. The great ninja clans would abandon any hesitation and fight to the death. The feudal Lord of Fire would ensure the village had full logistical support. That was the true strength of the Leaf. Even if the Cloud managed to win, the cost would be devastating. And the stone, sand, and mist would never let such an opportunity slip away. All these factors had to be considered. Thus, accepting reparations and a ceasefire was the best choice. His goals had already been achieved. It was time for the Uchiha clan to focus on growth, to rebuild and multiply. Hidden Leaf Village. The new year should have been a joyful festival filled with laughter and lights. But now, sorrow hung heavy over the village. The streets were empty. White ribbons draped the houses and storefronts. Only the taverns remained noisy. Drowning their grief in alcohol had become the villagers' favorite form of escape. Of course, only for those who could still afford to drink. To pay the Cloud's 10 billion ryo indemnity, Hiruzen Sarutobi had imposed a levy of 10,000 ryo on every household in the Leaf. It didn't sound like much, but it was enough to drain 2 months of living expenses for many families. The Uchiha's departure, the Ninetales rampage, the war with the Cloud, months of chaos had stripped the Leaf of nearly all its economic strength. If not for Orochimaru securing financial support from the feudal Lord of Fire, many might have starved to death this winter. A drunken shinobi slammed his cup onto the floor, shouting, "Why did the village end up like this? Wasn't the Leaf supposed to be the strongest hidden village?" A burly, drunken civilian sneered. "Because of you useless ninja, that's why. We're out here rebuilding the village while you lot lose the war, and now we have to pay money to the enemy. Disgusting." "What did you just say?" A group of shinobi bristled in anger. "We risked our lives to protect this village, and you dare to insult us. Am I wrong? If you can't beat the enemy, stop whining. Have you even tried to get stronger all these years? Bastard, what do you know?" The man was punched to the floor by a ninja dressed in black. The shinobi's voice trembled with fury. "Those Cloud ninja weren't our match. If not for the Uchiha helping them control the Eight Tails, we never would have lost so badly. Yeah, and in that last battle, we were evenly matched until the Reikage himself charged in. What could we have done? You complain about paying 10,000 ryo," another Chunin shouted, eyes red. "My comrades and my wife all died on that battlefield, and now, not only do we get no compensation, we're forced to hand over money to pay the enemy who killed them." Heh, he, tears streamed down the ninja's face. The tavern fell silent. After a long moment, someone shouted, "If none of us are at fault, then whose fault is it?" Everyone froze, frowning in thought. Yes. Who was to blame for what the village had become? Chapter 53, You Are the Sinner of Konoha. As time went on, the resentment within the hearts of Konoha's villagers deepened. After cooling down and thinking things through, they began to realize that behind every tragedy there seemed to be one shadow, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. If the Hokage had communicated with the Uchiha clan sooner and strengthened the village's defenses, the Uchiha never would have had the chance to leave the village. If the Hokage had made proper preparations, the Ninetales wouldn't have gone berserk, and the village wouldn't have suffered such devastating losses. If the Hokage had personally gone to the battlefield, the Konoha shinobi wouldn't have fallen into chaos when the third Reikage suddenly appeared. If the Hokage had shown stronger leadership, they wouldn't have needed to pay reparations to their enemies. In the end, wasn't the village's current state all due to the Hokage's incompetence? Villagers and shinobi alike couldn't help but think this way. As the highest authority of the village, the Hokage had to take responsibility and give everyone an explanation. Fueled by anger, a portion of Konoha's citizens began to protest, demanding that Hiruzen Sarutobi face the people and explain himself. Hokage building. Inside the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi puffed on his pipe, his brows knotted tightly. Though he had mentally prepared himself, he hadn't expected things to escalate this far. At this rate, if he didn't take action soon, public opinion would force him to resign as Hokage. Just as he was deep in thought, the door swung open and an energetic Danzo Shimura strode in. Seeing Hiruzen look up, Danzo's lips curled into an unrestrained smile. Hiruzen, you've seen how the villagers feel. If you don't take responsibility, the village could fall into civil disorder. I think it's best you step down as Hokage and stay on quietly as a village advisor. At those blunt words, Hiruzen replied coldly, if I resign, who do you think should take my place? Danzo straightened his back unconsciously, asking, Hiruzen, what do you think of me? HMPH. Hiruzen slammed the table, pointing a trembling finger at him. Look at yourself. One eye, one arm, scars all over your face. Go look in the mirror. Do you think you look anything like a Hokage? And tell me, can you honestly say the villagers' current turmoil has nothing to do with your scheming? If you don't restrain yourself, I'll dissolve Root and strip you of your advisor title. Danzo's face turned crimson with fury. He jabbed a finger toward Hiruzen. Fine, sit in that chair till you rot for all I care. Don't ever think of handing it to me. With that, he kicked open the office door and stormed out. Once Danzo was gone, Hiruzen's expression gradually calmed. As the sun set and rose again, determination hardened in his eyes. He tossed his pipe onto the desk and murmured a few words to the Anbu hidden in the shadows. Danzo wasn't wrong. Right now, the villagers' anger was too great. Someone with enough authority had to step forward and bear the blame. Konoha village. Yuzuru Uchiha strolled down the street, nibbling on a skewer of three-colored dango. Since the new year, he had come to Konoha alone. His purpose, naturally, to see how Hiruzen Sarutobi and the villagers would react after losing the war. Watching their rage and helplessness was, for now, one of Yuzuru's few pleasures. At a street corner, dozens of villagers had gathered. Have you heard? The Hokage had long noticed something strange about the Uchiha, so he had Sakumo Hatake lead the Anbu to monitor them around the clock, but the clan still vanished without anyone noticing. I'm telling you, Sakumo must have colluded with the Uchiha. Otherwise, under such strict surveillance, there's no way the entire clan could move without detection. HMPH. Even if he didn't collude, we can't forgive his incompetence. If it weren't for him letting the Uchiha slip away, none of this would have happened. That's right. Sakumo Hatake must take responsibility. He's the sinner of Konoha. He's the reason we lost our homes, the reason we're penniless, the reason we lost our families. Scenes like this were unfolding all over the village. Yuzuru couldn't help but shake his head. These people really never change, never self-reflect, only blame others for their misery. Still, he hadn't expected events so similar to the original timeline to happen so soon. Thinking of Sakumo Hatake's fate in the original story, Yuzuru popped the last bite of dango into his mouth and headed toward the Hatake residence. You're the sinner of Konoha, Sakumo Hatake. Because of your negligence, so many of us died. Don't you feel even a shred of guilt? Ha. To think I once respected you. You're not worthy of any honor. We know you're in there, coward. Outside the Hatake residence, dozens of rioters shouted insults. They hurled vegetable leaves, eggs, and stones over the wall. On the gate, someone had smeared the word sinner in red paint, a sight that stung the eyes. After watching for a while, Yuzuru activated Kamui and slipped into the courtyard. There, a masked boy was striking a wooden post again and again with a short blade, every blow fueled by raw anger. After a while, the boy suddenly turned and rushed toward the door. Kakashi, stop. A low, hoarse voice sounded. Kakashi Hatake froze mid-step. Father, why are they saying those things about you? You're a hero of the village. Sakumo Hatake stepped out of the house. In just one day, his face had grown deathly pale. He looked nothing like the proud white fang of Konoha, just a weary, broken man. Kakashi, let them say what they want. They need someone to vent at. Kakashi clenched his fists. Even if they need to vent, why put all the blame on you? Why don't you explain? Tell them you had nothing to do with the Uchiha. A bitter smile flickered across Sakumo's face. Explain? Kakashi, make your own dinner tonight. I'm going to rest for a while. Don't disturb me. With that, he turned and closed the door. Kakashi took a few steps forward, wanting to rush in. But in the end, he just hung his head and returned to his room. Watching this, Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. How familiar this scene was. Sakumo Hatake. Was he really about to take his own life? Chapter 54 White Fang's Suicide. In the original story, when Hatake Sakumo was performing a top-secret mission, he chose to abandon it in order to save the lives of his comrades. Because of his choice, the mission failed, and Konoha suffered tremendous losses. Later, for some unknown reason, what should have been top-secret information became widely known to everyone. The villagers of Konoha began accusing Sakumo Hatake of being a failure who couldn't even complete a mission. Even the comrades he had saved stood up to condemn him. Drowned in endless ridicule and hatred, Sakumo Hatake chose to end his life. And now, unbelievably, a similar scene was happening again. That night, Yuzuru Uchiha stepped into Sakumo Hatake's room just in time to see him kneeling motionless on the floor, a dagger in his hand. Seeing this, Yuzuru spoke first. Sakumo Hatake, we meet again. The moment he finished, Sakumo suddenly turned and thrust the dagger toward Yuzuru's chest, but in the next instant, Yuzuru caught Sakumo's wrist with ease. Sakumo, I can see hesitation in your blade, he said calmly. You're not my match right now. Yuzuru hadn't even activated his Mangekyou Sharingan. Just as he said, the Sakumo before him could no longer deliver a proper strike. You've infiltrated Konoha several times. What are you really after? Nothing much, Yuzuru replied with a faint smile. I simply wanted to admire the pathetic faces of those who fail, yet refuse to admit defeat. Sakumo fell silent at the taunt. Yuzuru's abilities were terrifyingly strange. He could enter even the most heavily guarded heart of Konoha at will. If not for Yuzuru, they would never have lost to the clouds so easily. But now, Sakumo no longer cared about such matters. He sat back on his knees, placing the dagger and towel before him. If possible, I'd like to ask you not to interfere, he said softly. These are the last moments of my life. I want to leave quietly. For you, losing an enemy like me must be something worth celebrating. Yuzuru chuckled. I once told you that you were destined to become a sacrifice of political strife. It seems I wasn't wrong. This is my own choice, Sakumo said coldly. It has nothing to do with politics. Hearing that, Yuzuru couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? Sakumo asked, frowning. I'm laughing at your naivety, Yuzuru replied with a low hum. Haven't you wondered why everyone suddenly turned on you overnight? Just yesterday, I recall the villagers were still condemning Hiruzen Sarutobi. Sakumo froze, confusion flashing in his eyes. What do you mean? I mean, Yuzuru's dark eyes locked onto him, voice turning icy. All of this was arranged by Hiruzen Sarutobi. You're his scapegoat. I don't know what nonsense you're spouting, Yuzuru said calmly. Konoha has been shaken by one upheaval after another, and resentment is building. Someone had to step forward and take the blame. That someone was supposed to be Hiruzen Sarutobi, but now it's you. I've walked through the streets of Konoha. Everywhere I went, people were spreading rumors about you. How else do you think you became the villagers' villain in just one day? Sakumo quickly protested. I'm the head of the Anbu, personally appointed by the Hokage himself, and even granted the right to wear the Hokage's Haori. There's no way the Hokage would choose me as a scapegoat. Yuzuru gave a small laugh. Do you think just anyone could absorb the people's fury for Hiruzen Sarutobi? It had to be someone respected, someone of high standing. And most importantly, Yuzuru's Sharingan spun open, the crimson pattern of the Mangekyou gleaming ominously. Staring unblinking into Sakumo's eyes, he said in a deep voice. At this very moment, if the villagers were to pick someone to succeed the Hokage, you would be the best candidate. So by destroying your reputation, by disqualifying the one best fit to inherit the Hokage seat, the villagers' anger toward Hiruzen can be softened enough to keep him in power. Sakumo's expression faltered, but he persisted. These are only your assumptions. What proof do you have? The proof, Yuzuru said sharply, is that Hiruzen Sarutobi hasn't spoken a single word in your defense. That final blow shattered Sakumo's last hope. His eyes went vacant, his body slumped to the floor, even his resolve to die seeming to crumble. Seeing him like that, Yuzuru extended his hand. Sakumo, come with me. Leave Konoha. The roots of this tree are rotten. They must be torn out completely to heal. Sakumo hadn't expected such words from Yuzuru. Instinctively, he shook his head, about to protest, but Yuzuru cut him off. Sakumo, even if you don't care about yourself, can't you at least think of Kakashi? You can end everything by dying, but Kakashi will live branded as the son of a sinner, scorned by everyone. You know that boy's nature, proud and unbending. His life will be nothing but suffering. And besides, Yuzuru tilted his head, feigning curiosity. Do you really think Hiruzen Sarutobi, the one who made you his scapegoat, would allow Kakashi, a potential threat, to grow up peacefully? In truth, Hiruzen would never do such a thing, and perhaps he hadn't even imagined Sakumo would choose death. But what did that matter? Sakumo didn't know Hiruzen's true intentions, and Yuzuru could twist the truth however he wished. Not giving Sakumo time to think, Yuzuru pressed on. As head of the Anbu, you've seen the darkness that festers beneath the light, haven't you? Have you ever truly considered what it is you've been giving your life to protect, the will of fire? Nothing more than Hiruzen Sarutobi's means of brainwashing. Konoha. The Senju who founded it are gone, the Uchiha have already chosen to leave, and you, reviled by all, what reason do you have to stay? Sakumo froze in place, unable to find a single word to refute him. Yuzuru extended his hand again. Come, join me. Serve under me, and together we'll build a new order. Let these ungrateful fools drown in their regret. This time, Sakumo took Yuzuru's hand. Yes, he had done nothing wrong. He had already given everything to Konoha. Since the day he became a shinobi, he had risked his life countless times to protect the village, earned endless merit. And for what right did these people he had protected have to condemn him? What had those who cursed him ever done for him? From the Hokage down to the villagers, everyone had abandoned him, so why stay? Why not do as the Uchiha did, leave Konoha behind? If one day he could see the look of regret in their eyes, that would be the sweetest revenge imaginable. Chapter 55. This shinobi world needs change. The morning sun rose quietly. Some villagers had already gathered before the Hatake residence. They came intending to curse and shout, but their voices froze the moment they saw the words painted in fresh blood-red strokes on the white wall. You all said I colluded with the Uchiha, so I'll grant you your wish. At that, the villagers' faces paled. After glancing around nervously, one of them formed a quick hand seal and vanished from sight. At the Hokage building, Sarutobi Hiruzen had just arrived at the entrance when an Anbu sprinted toward him. Lord Hokage, it's terrible, Hiruzen frowned. The most important quality for an Anbu is composure. No matter what happens, you must remain calm, understand? Yes, sir. The Anbu straightened up immediately. Satisfied, Hiruzen nodded and continued walking toward his office. All right, report. What's happened? Clearing his throat, the Anbu began in an orderly tone. When I went to Hatake Sakumo's home this morning, I found a message written on his wall. He repeated the message word for word, then added, I also checked the house. Neither Hatake Sakumo nor Hatake Kakashi were anywhere to be found. Before the Anbu could finish, Hiruzen swayed unsteadily. Lord Hokage, are you all right? Didn't you rest? But Hiruzen could no longer hear him. His mind was ringing like something had exploded inside his skull. He never imagined that by letting Sakumo take the blame for one incident, the man would go so far as to defect. Even if he had grievances, couldn't he have come to discuss them first? Why take such an extreme path? And defecting was one thing, but joining the Uchiha clan. Was he doing this just to spite him? Already worn thin by the chaos of recent days, Hiruzen finally reached his breaking point. Blood spurted from his lips before he collapsed unconscious. Land of Fire, Uchiha Yuzuru, Hatake Sakumo, and Hatake Kakashi raced swiftly toward the Land of Lightning. A faint smile lingered on Yuzuru's face. He had only come to Konoha for some entertainment, but unexpectedly, he had gained Sakumo's allegiance. To him, another cage-level ally was merely a luxury, but the thought of tormenting Sarutobi Hiruzen and those ungrateful wolves of Konoha filled him with satisfaction. After all, losing one cage-level ninja and the village's most talented prodigy was a blow even Konoha would struggle to bear. Sometimes Yuzuru couldn't help but wonder, if he did nothing at all, would Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo eventually destroy themselves? After a moment's amusement, he glanced at Sakumo and Kakashi beside him. "Why so serious, you two? Smile a little." Sakumo managed a weary smile. "Yuzuru, from now on, Kakashi and I are rogue ninjas of Konoha." For someone who valued honor above life itself, bearing the mark of a traitor was unbearable. Yuzuru waved dismissively. "Rogue ninjas, no, from now on you're Cloud Shinobi. And who knows, once I bring Tsunade, Orochimaru, and even the Uchiha Clan to Kumagakure, maybe it'll be hard to tell who the real traitors are." Sakumo shook his head helplessly. Yuzuru was treating him like a child. Even Kakashi wouldn't believe such nonsense. HMPH, delusional. Sakumo said nothing, but Kakashi muttered coldly. "Oh," Yuzuru arched an eyebrow. "So the dead fish-eyed brat can talk after all. I'm not mute, and stop calling me that," Kakashi snapped. "You tricked my father into becoming a rogue ninja. You're no good person." He turned to Sakumo, frowning in confusion. "Father, why didn't you try to explain yourself to Lord Hawkage? If he clarified things, the villagers would realize their mistake." Sakumo sighed. "Kakashi, things aren't that simple. The reason I was blamed and shunned, it was all because the third Hawkage fanned the flames from the shadows. Now that he'd left Konoha, Sakumo saw no reason to let Kakashi cling to false hopes. He told his son everything. Kakashi, now you understand. If not for Yuzuru last night, I'd already be dead." Kakashi was speechless, shaken to his core. That kind old man from the academy who once lectured them about the will of fire. Could he really have done such a thing? After a long silence, Kakashi bowed deeply to Yuzuru. "Thank you for saving my father. I was wrong before. Please don't be angry." Yuzuru chuckled. "Who gets angry at a little kid? If you're truly grateful, then work for me. One day we'll take back this land." Kakashi hesitated, "But that would mean many people will die." "To bring change, blood and sacrifice are inevitable," Yuzuru said patiently. "Stop trying to be everyone's good guy. Your father's fate should have already taught you that." Recalling the faces of the villagers who had screamed insults at his home, Kakashi's gaze hardened. "I understand." Yuzuru nodded, satisfied. Bringing Kakashi along might finally stop Obito from pestering him all day. The three continued traveling for half a day. As they passed a small hill, the sound of a woman's muffled crying mixed with men's crude laughter reached their ears. Yuzuru and Sakumo exchanged a look and moved toward the noise. Moments later, they found several male corpses sprawled on the ground. Nearby, 3 bandits were tearing at a woman's clothes while a baby wailed on the dirt beside her. When the bearded thug noticed them, he hefted his blade and snarled. "Who the hell are you?" His answer came in the flash of a blade, too fast to see. In mere heartbeats, all 3 men lay in pieces. Sakumo placed a small pouch of military ration pills into the woman's trembling hands. "Take these. Eat them when you need strength. Be careful on the road." As she clutched her child and staggered away, Yuzuru spoke softly. "You see, Sakumo, this shinobi world needs change." Chapter 56, There was never any rain outside. Yuzuru Uchiha's pitch-black eyes gleamed with quiet depth. Along the way, they had already encountered many such scenes. He wasn't some saint, but the education he'd received before crossing into this world made it impossible for him to turn a blind eye. In today's shinobi world, the people at the bottom lived in endless suffering. Although his goal was to become the strongest and attain immortality, he didn't mind improving the world of shinobi while he was at it. Perhaps the order he would one day build would also have flaws, but at least there would no longer be bandits running rampant or people treated as worthless as weeds. With that thought, Yuzuru turned to Sakumo Hatake and said, "Sakumo, it's not just these ordinary people. Even shinobi live every day not knowing if they'll see tomorrow. For the sake of missions, today you kill me, tomorrow someone else kills you. Hatred continues to fester until finally it evolves into war. It's just like a cycle, endlessly repeating. No matter how I think about it, only 5 words come to mind." Sakumo Hatake asked in a deep voice. "Which 5 words?" Power surged from Yuzuru Uchiha's body as he said coldly, "Use killing to stop killing." Sakumo fell silent for a long moment, then looked at Yuzuru with solemn resolve. "Yuzuru, I understand your resolve now. From now on, I'll follow your lead and help you build that new order. Yuzuru patted Sakumo's shoulder and nodded. With that pledge, even if they were to one day wage war against Konoha, Sakumo Hatake would no longer hesitate. After steadying his emotions, Yuzuru glanced at the boy behind him and suddenly asked, "Kakashi, why are you blushing? You didn't just see something you shouldn't have, did you?" Kakashi's eyes darted nervously. I definitely didn't see it," Yuzuru chuckled. "But I never said what I was referring to. No matter what it is, I didn't see it." Seeing Kakashi's guilty look, Yuzuru pulled out a book and quietly slipped it into his hands. "When you read it, be careful not to let your father find out." Curious, Kakashi flipped through a few pages, then quickly stuffed the book inside his clothes. "Ha ha ha ha." Yuzuru burst into hearty laughter. Maybe it was a little inappropriate to corrupt a child, but interacting with these familiar characters from the original story was simply too much fun. Kumagakure, Reikage Building, Reikage's office. The third Reikage stared at Sakumo Hatake and Kakashi Hatake in disbelief. "Yuzuru, you actually managed to bring Sakumo Hatake over here." Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. "He's standing right in front of you. Can't you see for yourself?" The third Reikage laughed loudly and clapped Yuzuru on the shoulder. "Yuzuru, you truly are a blessing to Kumagakure." Sakumo Hatake's power was recognized across all ninja villages. Even a man as domineering as the third Reikage had once issued the command. "If you encounter Konoha's White Fang, abandon the mission unconditionally." And now, such a powerful expert was willing to bring his son and join their Kumagakure. It felt like a dream. First the Uchiha Clan and the orphan of Uzumaki, and now Sakumo Hatake and Kakashi Hatake. Had those fools in Konoha completely lost their minds? Shaking the thought away, the third Reikage turned to Sakumo. "Sakumo, settle down here in Kumagakure. If you need anything, talk to Yuzuru, or to me directly." The Reikage's open attitude eased the tension that had been weighing on Sakumo's heart. After all, among the shinobi he had once slain were more than a few elites from Kumagakure. After a brief conversation, Yuzuru and Sakumo left the Reikage building together. As they walked through the streets, Sakumo couldn't help but say, "Yuzuru, I didn't expect you to hold such authority here in Kumagakure." He still couldn't believe how the third Reikage treated Yuzuru, with the ease and camaraderie of equals. For an outsider to be not only accepted, but treated like a brother by the Reikage, it was unheard of. He couldn't help but think, if he had defected to Konoha instead, he'd probably have been dragged straight to the interrogation unit. Yuzuru said calmly, "Those with true power don't care about trivialities, because they have confidence in their control over everything, and here in Kumagakure." He pointed toward the training grounds. "As long as you're strong enough, you'll earn their respect." Following Yuzuru's gesture, Sakumo saw several members of the Uchiha Clan. They were surrounded by Kumagakure shinobi like stars encircling the moon, lining up to request sparring matches from the sound of it. It was a scene Sakumo had never witnessed even in Konoha. It seemed the Uchiha were thriving in Kumagakure. Seeing the look on Sakumo's face, Yuzuru explained, "When we first arrived, my clansmen had the same worries you do. But later, they realized there was no need for such concern. Kumagakure values strength above all. Most people here are straightforward and bold. If you're strong and willing to blend in, they'll accept you. There's not so much scheming here. You can live with a lighter heart." That had been one of his main reasons for choosing Kumagakure. The Uchiha were proud by nature, but only toward those weaker than themselves. And to the shinobi of Kumagakure, that kind of pride was perfectly natural. What's wrong with being arrogant if you have the strength to back it up? If the weak couldn't stand it, they simply had to get stronger. Combined with the power of the Sharingan, the Uchiha were nearly unbeatable one-on-one against opponents of equal strength, cementing their reputation within Kumagakure. And in missions or battles, Uchiha shinobi always charged forward even more recklessly than their allies. They spoke their minds, disdained political games, and fought with all they had. So in just over half a year, the Uchiha clan had become deeply integrated into Kumagakure life. Now, not being friends with an Uchiha was something to be laughed at. That's right, in today's Kumagakure, befriending an Uchiha has become a badge of honor. If Yuzuru were to sum it up in one phrase, it would be, after leaving Konoha's umbrella, I realized there was never any rain outside. Just as Yuzuru and Sakumo were chatting, a suddenly appeared before them. Hatake Sakumo, fight me. I'm going to personally return the defeat from the battlefield to you. Seeing the fierce determination in A's eyes, Sakumo instinctively looked to Yuzuru. Yuzuru shrugged. That's just how he is. Either you let him keep pestering you, or you beat him until he yields, like I did. I immediately protested. I never yielded. I just don't think I've surpassed you yet. Yuzuru ignored him and said to Sakumo, looks like beating him halfway into submission works too. Chapter 57. Anew reward. The news of Sakumo Hatake's arrival in the hidden cloud village hadn't yet spread widely. But after A's outburst, every nearby ninja quickly gathered around. They stared curiously at the man known throughout the ninja world as the White Fang of the Leaf, their faces showing no trace of hostility. Thanks to the Uchiha Clan's groundwork, the Cloud Shinobi were more than happy to welcome a powerful ally who could strengthen their village. As the crowd grew larger, a simply pulled Sakumo along toward the Valley of Clouds and Lightning. It was where Killer Bee usually trained. Even the Eight Tails could move freely there, making it the perfect battlefield. Lord A, you have to win. Show them the pride of the hidden cloud. Don't lose face for us. To witness the White Fang in battle, I can hardly contain myself. Not only the Cloud Ninjas, even members of the Uchiha Clan rushed over eagerly. Observing a fight between such powerhouses was a priceless experience for any shinobi. Having just arrived in the village, Sakumo couldn't help but feel a bit pressured. He looked toward Yuzuru Uchiha, somewhat uncertain. Yuzuru said calmly, don't even think about holding back. As long as you don't kill him, no one will blame you. Got it. Sakumo took a deep breath, steadying his emotions, quietly pushing his condition to its peak. Seeing this, immediately activated his lightning release chakra mode and charged forward. Their fight had no wasted movements, only pure speed and raw power. Steel clashed, lightning roared. Less than 30 minutes later, Sakumo narrowly defeated A. When his short blade pierced A's back and struck near his heart, the crowd erupted in cheers. Even though most couldn't follow the speed of their movements, it didn't dampen their excitement. As expected of the White Fang of the Leaf, Lord is still lost. I can't help but smile when I think that such a strong expert will be our comrade from now on. Poor Leaf Village. Even my grandma would know how to treat their powerful shinobi better if she were the Hokage. We should rename him the White Fang of the Cloud. Let those leaf fools worry about it now, ha-ha-ha. Amidst the laughter and cheering, A walked over to Sakumo and extended his fist. White Fang senpai, I'll challenge you again, he said. If you slack off, I won't lose next time. Seeing the earnest look on A's face, Sakumo slowly raised his arm and bumped fists with him. As the crowd dispersed, a faint smile tugged at Sakumo's lips. This feeling of not having to hold back, it's really nice. Yuzuru walked up to him and said evenly, Sakumo, the hidden cloud has many ways to strengthen the body. As long as you earn enough contribution points, you can learn them. Work hard. I'm looking forward to seeing the faces of those leaf traders when you've completed your transformation. Watching Yuzuru's back as he left, a surge of determination welled up in Sakumo's chest. He couldn't stop here. When Yuzuru built his new order in the future, he would face immense opposition, and Sakumo needed to become stronger to help him, to end killing with killing, to end war with war. He would become the blade in Yuzuru's hand, one that cut down all his enemies. After parting with Sakumo, Yuzuru returned to the hidden cloud, intending to go home and see Makoto and Kushina. But just as he neared the Uchiha compound, he spotted two kids standing face to face. One wore goggles and looked excited, waving his arms around. The other wore a mask, arms crossed, eyes sharp and cool. Abaito, Kakashi, Yuzuru called out. Abaito Uchiha's eyes lit up. He ran over eagerly and asked, Big brother Yuzuru, why is this guy in our village? Yuzuru patted his head. Kakashi and his father will be Cloud Shinobi from now on. What? Abaito clutched his head, shouting, why him of all people, that dead fish-eyed guy? Kakashi Hatake replied coldly, don't give me stupid nicknames, you dropout. What did you say? Abaito pointed at him furiously. I'm a genius of the Cloud Village now, a big deal at the academy. I'm not a dropout anymore, Kakashi just snorted, eyes filled with disdain seeing that look. Obito rolled up his sleeves, ready to fight. Yuzuru sighed and grabbed him. Obito, you can't beat Kakashi, he's stronger than you. Obito stared in disbelief. Stronger than me? I wasn't even afraid to challenge you. How could I be weaker than him? I call myself the second genius of the Uchiha because I respect you as my big brother. And now you say I'm not as strong as him. Seeing there was no stopping him, Yuzuru let go. Obito charged. Within moments, he was pinned to the ground by Kakashi. Dropout. Kakashi stood up, turned, and bowed slightly. Lord Yuzuru, I'll go find my father. Go ahead. Once Kakashi left, Yuzuru helped Obito up. Obito, Kakashi will be attending the Ninja Academy too. You'll have plenty of chances to beat him. Keep training, challenge him every day if you have to. One day you'll win. Obito looked at him, eyes shining. Big brother Yuzuru, I won't let you down. He turned and dashed off. Whistling happily, Yuzuru continued toward the compound. With Kakashi around, Obito probably wouldn't bother him so often anymore. As he entered the Uchiha district, he noticed colorful ribbons strung across many buildings. Curious, he glanced around. It seemed someone was getting married. After a quick look, he lost interest and continued toward home. But the next moment, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. The system's long, silent tone, ding, detected that the host's family now has a clan member with a special bloodline, Yatsuki bloodline. Reward obtained, Yatsuki bloodline. Current Yatsuki bloodline evolution progress. 1% Chapter 58 The Yatsuki bloodline T/N. For every 100 power stone 1 plus chapter. I hope I don't regret it and get burned out. XD. The sudden voice left Yuzuru Uchiha frozen in place. The system. Ever since it had appeared when he first regained his past life memories, this was the first time he'd heard that familiar system prompt again. It had been so long that he'd nearly forgotten it existed. Detected. A clan member now possesses a special bloodline. The Yatsuki bloodline has been unlocked. So that means someone from the Uchiha clan has married into the Yatsuki clan. In that case, it must have been through marriage. Yuzuru muttered softly to himself. With that thought, he immediately walked toward the gathered crowd. It's clan leader Yuzuru. Clan leader Yuzuru is here. Quick, everyone make way. Let the clan leader to the front. To receive the clan leader's blessing, these newlyweds are truly fortunate. The crowd parted to form a path, and Yuzuru walked forward calmly until he stood before the bride and groom. The groom was a young man, about 20 years old. When he saw Yuzuru approach, he straightened and bowed respectfully. Clan leader Yuzuru. Yuzuru smiled. No need to be so formal. What's your name? The young man quickly replied. My name is Kaze, and this is Yatsuki Sakura. We're teammates who completed missions together. Yuzuru nodded slightly, just as he suspected. The system's prompt must have been triggered because of this girl, Yatsuki Sakura. He hadn't expected that when an Uchiha married someone with a special bloodline, he could awaken that bloodline himself. A pleasant surprise indeed. After thinking for a moment, Yuzuru smiled. I was just passing by and noticed a wedding taking place, so I came to take a look. I hope I'm not interrupting. Uchiha Kaze waved his hands quickly. Of course not. Having you attend our ceremony is an honor. We couldn't be happier. Seeing how excited he was, Yatsuki Sakura puffed her cheeks and muttered, Honestly, you weren't even this happy when you were marrying me. Uchiha Kaze lifted his chin. What's there to be happy about with marriage? Yuzuru couldn't help but chuckle and said to Sakura, Most of our clansmen are like that. If he's close to you, you'll have to take what he says in reverse. At that, Sakura burst into laughter. Exactly. At first I thought he hated me. If I hadn't kept chasing him, I'd never have realized he actually loved me. Hey, why are you telling people that? I just did, Sakura said, hugging his arm tightly. Do you know how happy I was when I finally got you? Watching the flushed Kaze, Yuzuru smiled. All right, I have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave. Congratulations on your marriage. Take care, clan leader. After bidding farewell to the newlyweds, Yuzuru didn't return home. Instead, he used Kamui in a deserted area to enter his Kamui space. There, he sat cross-legged and focused on sensing the changes in his body. As time passed, a grin spread across his face. Although the Yatsuki bloodline in his body had only evolved by 1%, he could already feel the transformation. The Yatsuki bloodline had increased the toughness of his cells and improved their affinity with lightning release chakra. At the same time, the stronger cells slightly boosted his total chakra reserves. Yuzuru was certain if he could evolve the Yatsuki bloodline to 100%, his body would undergo an earth-shaking transformation. As expected, a body capable of mastering the lightning release chakra mode is extraordinary. Back when he'd first arrived in Kumigakure, he had begun training in lightning release chakra mode. But under that violent surge of power, his cells simply couldn't withstand it. In lightning release chakra mode, not only did his cells fail to increase in activity, but they would die directly. From that time on, Yuzuru had suspected that the third Reikage and A's bodies were anything but ordinary. And now, it seemed he'd been right. If the Uzumaki and Senju bloodlines enhanced cell activity and division speed, granting immense chakra and regeneration, then the Yatsuki bloodline greatly strengthened the physical durability of cells, providing superior defense and endurance. When that strength reached a certain level, even the rampaging lightning release chakra could course through the body without killing the cells. As for the Yatsuki clan's natural affinity for lightning release, it must have evolved from generations of living in the land of lightning. Understanding this, Yuzuru's eyes shone with excitement. The third Reikage's physique was already monstrous. He had fought Anoki's army of 10,000 for 3 days and nights alone, battled the rampaging Eight-Tails to a standstill, and even with an Ito Tensei body, withstood a wind release. Raisen Shuriken head-on. Yet Yuzuru had a feeling, once he evolved his Yatsuki bloodline to 100%, his physical body might surpass even that of the third Reikage. System: if I directly change the surnames of outsiders who wish to join the Uchiha Clan, will I still get a reward? Rewards are granted only through marriage or by producing offspring. Yuzuru had expected that response. The clan system increased population through marriage and bloodline ties. If anyone could simply change their surname and count as a clansman, that would be absurd. Judging from the current situation, each time a Yatsuki clansman marries into the Uchiha, the evolution increases by 1%. So to reach 100%, I'd need to form 100 such unions. No, if offspring count as well, that number could be even lower. Yuzuru nodded to himself. The condition wasn't unreasonable. The Yatsuki clan had many members with personalities like Yatsuki Sakura's. With the Uchiha's looks, achieving that goal wouldn't be difficult. Having decided, Yuzuru rose and left the Kamui space. If merging other special bloodlines granted him power, then he would seek out more of them to strengthen himself further. If the Senju and Uzumaki bloodlines enhanced the body, the Uchiha bloodline refined the spirit, and the Kaguya bloodline fortified the bones. Then perhaps one day, he could achieve a body as perfect as the Sage of Six Paths. No, perhaps even greater. After all, the blood of Otsutsuki Hamura still flowed somewhere in this shinobi world. After leaving the Kamui space, it was already deep into the night. Yuzuru Uchiha returned to the courtyard and noticed that the room where Kushina Uzumaki lived was still lit. He walked over, saw that the door wasn't closed, and went straight inside. Inside, Kushina was slumped over the table, fast asleep. Seeing this, Yuzuru approached, gently picked her up and laid her on the bed. But when he pulled the blanket over her, their bodies brushed against each other by accident, and Kushina jolted awake. Seeing Yuzuru, she froze for a moment, then crossed her arms over her chest. "Why, Yuzuru, what are you doing here? What were you just doing?" Looking at her defensive posture, Yuzuru replied calmly, "When someone covers you with a blanket while you're sleeping, the proper response is to say thank you, not why are you here or what were you doing. That's just ungrateful." What? Just say thank you." Feeling his gaze, Kushina stammered, Thank you." Seeing that she'd already forgotten to press the issue, Yuzuru smoothly changed the topic. "Kushina, why did you fall asleep at your desk with the door open?" "I heard someone say you'd come back," she explained, "so I stayed home waiting for you." "No need to wait for me next time. When I return, I'll always come find you first." Yuzuru reached out and ruffled her hair. "Even if you're asleep, I'll sneak in to see you." At that, Kushina's face flushed red and she puffed out her cheeks. "Pervert, Yes, this was the feeling he liked. Yuzuru smiled in satisfaction. It's late, go to sleep. Tomorrow let's eat together. Got it, I'll invite Makoto too, good girl, PFFT. After chatting for a bit, Yuzuru returned to his own room. If he remembered correctly, there was still a clan in the Land of Lightning that possessed a special bloodline, and that clan had some history with the Uchiha. The next day, subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Yuzuru didn't wake until noon. Stretching lazily, he stepped out of his room. Outside, he saw Kushina and Makoto Uchiha whispering together in the courtyard. Smiling, Yuzuru walked over and slipped an arm around each of them. Kushina, Makoto, good morning. Makoto blushed and lowered her head. Kushina gave a token struggle before saying, It's already noon, you lazy pig. Yuzuru frowned slightly. Watch your words, Kushina, or I'll spank you. Kushina huffed. I'm not afraid of you. Senior Lihuo has already taken me in as his adopted daughter. If you bully me or Makoto again, I'll tell on you. Yuzuru turned curiously toward Makoto. Makoto, is that true? Yes, she smiled and nodded. So now you're the one who should be careful. Two sisters, one black-haired, one red-haired, one gentle, one lively, how exciting. Yuzuru didn't reply, but a phrase flashed unbidden through his mind, double the bride price. What does that even mean? After having lunch with Makoto and Kushina, Yuzuru headed for the Reikage building. In the archive vault, he found the records about the Chinook clan. There wasn't much, so it didn't take long for him to understand their situation. According to the documents, the Blood Pond clan had lived in the Land of Lightning for generations. They possessed a Kekkei Genkai called the Blood Dragon Eye, which allowed them to use blood as a medium to turn others' bodies into living bombs. During the Warring States period, a woman from the Blood Pond clan married the Land of Lightning's feudal lord. The lord's affection for her aroused the jealousy of his legal wife. Soon after the marriage, the lord died suddenly. The wife blamed everything on the woman from the Blood Pond clan. The woman was forced to commit suicide, and the entire clan was implicated. Every one of them was imprisoned in the Hell Valley of the Land of Lightning, and the ones tasked with guarding them were the Uchiha clan. Later, when the Uchiha and Senju clans founded Konoha together, the duty of guarding the Blood Pond clan was transferred to Kumigakure. Even now, the Blood Pond clan was still forbidden to leave Hell Valley. How tragic, Yuzuru muttered. Because of a jealous wife's hatred, an entire clan had been imprisoned for centuries. If nothing unexpected happened, they would remain there forever, until the day they vanished from history. They possessed great power, yet in the eyes of the daimyo and nobles, they were nothing but disposable tools. What a twisted world of shinobi this was. Yuzuru's gaze grew cold. In a world of the extraordinary, those with power should rightfully have everything. He didn't care what others thought. He had no interest in the daimyo or their decrees. If they dared oppose his will, he would simply kill them. Reikage's office. The third Reikage, Mabuma, and Tadai were discussing how to use the compensation money from Konoha. When Yuzuru entered, Mabuma and Tadai immediately stood. Lord Yuzuru. They deeply respected the young man whose strength had made Kumigakure the strongest village in the shinobi world. Without Yuzuru, the shinobi of the village would never have the peace they enjoyed now. Yuzuru waved a hand. No need for formalities. I'm here to discuss something with the third Reikage. The third Reikage looked curious. Yuzuru, is there something you need from me? In the Hell Valley of the Land of Lightning, the Blood Pond clan is still imprisoned, correct? They possess the Blood Dragon Eye, a Kekkei Genkai too valuable to waste. I want to bring them back to the village. As soon as Yuzuru finished, the third Reikage, Tadai, and Mabuma all froze. None of them had expected him to make such a request. Tadai hesitated before speaking. Lord Yuzuru, the Blood Pond clan was imprisoned by order of successive daimyo. If we release them, the daimyo will never approve. Kumigakure had few Kekkei Genkai of its own, so it had always yearned for shinobi who possessed them. The second Reikage had once petitioned the daimyo to release a few gifted members of the Blood Pond clan, but was firmly refused. That was why Kumigakure resorted to abducting children with Kekkei Genkai from across the shinobi world, rather than freeing those locked away in Hell Valley. And now, Yuzuru wanted to bring them out. It would not be easy. Yuzuru, why did you suddenly decide to release the Uchiha clan? Yuzuru Uchiha said calmly, Third Reikage, have you forgotten what I told you before? Upon hearing Yuzuru's words, the Third Reikage recalled their conversation that day in the Reikage building. Yuzuru's goal was to change the current state of the shinobi world and establish a unified nation. He had been stunned at the time. If that was Yuzuru's goal, then his actions made sense. After all, to unify the entire shinobi world, the current strength of Kumagakure was far from enough. Seeing the Third Reikage hesitate to speak, Tadai and Mabuma exchanged a curious glance. Lord Reikage, what matter is Lord Yuzuru referring to? At their question, the Third Reikage looked at Yuzuru. Seeing that Yuzuru gave no objection, he said gravely, Yuzuru intends to unify the shinobi world and create a single great nation. What? Mabuma and Tadai both gaped in shock. Unify the shinobi world. That was insane. Seeing their reactions, the Third Reikage merely looked unsurprised. He himself had been dumbfounded for quite some time after first hearing it. Even though they considered themselves aggressive by nature, at most they'd only thought of making Kumagakure the strongest hidden village, never of unifying the entire world. After a long silence, Tadai licked his dry lips and asked cautiously, Lord Yuzuru, do you truly intend to unify the shinobi world? Yuzuru nodded with a calm expression. That's right, the current shinobi world is overflowing with tragedy. I will build a new order, one that achieves true peace. Only by unifying the shinobi world could he safely strengthen and expand the Uchiha clan, while continuously acquiring ever more powerful bloodlines. Otsutsuki Kaguya, Otsutsuki Ishiki, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, and even that legendary Otsutsuki god. If he could not gain power surpassing theirs, Yuzuru Uchiha would never rest easy. From the moment he awakened his memories, his ambitions had already surpassed the confines of the shinobi world. Mabuma frowned. Lord Yuzuru, unifying the shinobi world isn't that simple. Even putting aside the overwhelming power we'd need to crush the other villages, the Damio, they'd never agree to such a thing. Though wars erupted periodically across the nations, the Damio would never allow one power to dominate all. To them, a balance of power between the villages was the ideal situation. At those words, Yuzuru chuckled coldly. He looked at Mabuma and Tadai. From the start, you've done nothing but talk about the Damio, but this is my plan. Why should I seek their permission? When he finished, the Third Reikage, Tadai and Mabuma froze in place. The Damio were the rulers of their nations. Wasn't this something that required their approval? Seeing their dumbfounded faces, Yuzuru said flatly, Ninja possessing great power, yet obeying Damio is a twisted system to begin with. The state of the shinobi world today is inseparable from those parasitic nobles. Eliminating the Damio has long been part of my plan. So, Yuzuru's voice slowed, his gaze sweeping over the three stunned men. Whatever we choose to do, we need not care about so-called Damio. If one objects, I'll kill him. When death comes, the Damio and their nobles will finally understand we are not lowly tools. We are the true masters of the land. The office fell silent. After a while, Tadai spoke hoarsely. If we kill the Damio, the others will never stand by. We'll become enemies of the entire shinobi world. Ha 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 ha. Yuzuru burst into wild laughter. Tadai, what do you think I'm planning? Becoming the enemy of the entire shinobi world is only a matter of time. Tadai fell silent. This was a matter far beyond his authority, one that concerned the fate of their entire village. The Third Reikage stared into Yuzuru's eyes. Yuzuru, are you confident? He asked solemnly. If we follow your plan, we'll likely face the anger of the entire shinobi world. HMP. Mere grains of sand are nothing before me. Yuzuru's dark eyes turned scarlet, transforming into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Confidence filled his tone. These eyes of mine can make anything possible. Good, the Third Reikage roared with laughter, clapping Yuzuru's shoulder hard. Truth is, I've long despised the Damio. Those bastards care only for their own interests and never for our lives. And besides, his expression burned with excitement. There's nothing I love more than fighting powerful opponents. His body trembled not from fear, but from exhilaration. With the power Yuzuru had already displayed, perhaps they could truly accomplish it, to become revolutionaries greater than Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. That very thought set his blood ablaze. Seeing the Reikage's approval, Yuzuru smiled. Among all the Kage, perhaps only the third Reikage would agree to such a mad plan. For that alone, Yuzuru decided he would rewrite the man's fate. Tadai and Mabuma exchanged a bitter smile. The Reikage was already radical enough. Now another, even more extreme man had appeared. What could they say? They could only follow the madness. All right, today's matter is top secret, not a word to anyone. Yuzuru, I'll issue you a command letter. Go to Hell Valley and retrieve the Blood Pond clan. Understood. As the third Reikage wrote the order, Mabuma couldn't resist teasing. Lord Yuzuru, you and the Reikage are quite alike. You both love solving problems with brute strength. Yuzuru shook his head. Nonsense, I've always solved problems with my intelligence. Is that so? Mabuma chuckled. Yet what you're planning clearly relies on power. That's because my intelligence tells me to use my power to solve problems. Ha 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 ha. The third Reikage laughed loudly and nodded in agreement. Exactly, I'm the same way. After a moment of laughter, Yuzuru took the Reikage's command letter and left the building. He had heard that the Blood Pond clan's Kekkei Genkai was quite similar to the Uchiha's Sharingan. Did that mean they too were descendants of Indra? If his guess was right, then by acquiring their bloodline power, his spiritual strength, just as when he obtained the Yatsuki clan's bloodline, might once again undergo a tremendous boost, the land of lightning. There were no clouds in the sky, yet a sound like continuous thunder rolled endlessly above. Yuzuru Uchiha walked alone along the road, dressed in clothes bearing the Uchiha clan's fan crest, a long blade slung diagonally across his waist. His black hair danced in the wind, and his dark eyes appeared even deeper against his pale skin. Blue arcs of lightning flickered across his body from time to time. Ever since awakening the Yatsuki clan's bloodline, my lightning release body training has become far smoother than ever. Feeling the changes within his body, Yuzuru's lips curved slightly. A moment later, the piercing cry of 1,000 birds filled the air as his right hand became wrapped in surging lightning. I've completely mastered Chidori and its derivative Chidori stream. Combined with the Sharingan, it should show excellent power in battle. Once I return, I can teach the training method to the clan. Dismissing the lightning in his hand, Yuzuru focused his thoughts, and a sky-blue sphere of chakra appeared in his palm. Next, he would study the nature transformation of the Rasengan. Training as he traveled, Yuzuru soon arrived at a barren landscape resembling a desert of rock and gravel. Everywhere he looked were eroded stones and jagged rock mountains, almost devoid of any vegetation. The endless thunder overhead lent the place an aura like the depths of hell. To be imprisoned in a place like this for centuries and still survive, that takes remarkable strength. Yuzuru halted before a canyon. At its entrance stood a cluster of stone huts built from piled rocks. Dozens of cloud ninjas stood guard, blocking his path. This area is forbidden. Do not approach, one of them barked coldly. Yuzuru said nothing, simply taking the third Reikage's written order from his clothes and tossing it over. Moments later, all the cloud ninja knelt halfway to the ground. Lord Yuzuru, you may all return to the village. Lord Yuzuru, the leader said hesitantly, those inside are dangerous. Should we stay to assist you? No need. Yuzuru waved a hand and walked calmly into the canyon. The path was narrow at first, just wide enough for one person. After walking for about a mile, the space suddenly opened up. The ground was filled with huge puddles, each brimming with crimson water that looked almost like blood. White bones and skulls lay scattered at the bottom, creating a chilling scene. Further ahead, at the base of the rocky cliffs, were rows of evenly shaped caves. Sensing Yuzuru's presence, a number of pale-skinned people emerged from within, roughly 100 of them in all. Who are you? Asked an elder who seemed to be their leader, staring warily at the lone intruder. I'm here to save you, Yuzuru replied calmly. People of the Chinook clan, I've come to bring you back to live in Kumagakyur. What? The gathered clan members gasped in disbelief. Imprisoned for centuries, they had long abandoned any hope of leaving. Now, with this stranger suddenly appearing, they were utterly bewildered. The elder's voice trembled. What happened outside? Why release us now? Before Yuzuru could answer, one of the Chinook clansmen shouted, "That crest, you're from the Uchiha clan." At once, hostility erupted. "Damn Uchiha. It was your clan that exiled us here. We'll have our revenge." Several of the Chinook clansmen's eyes gleamed crimson, their pupils turning into horizontal slits. Yuzuru felt a wave of power battering against his mind. At the same time, the clansmen formed hand seals, and the red waters of the pools surged violently. Massive blood dragons rose and roared toward Yuzuru. Die. The dragons swallowed him whole in an instant. The next moment, Yuzuru's battered figure appeared again before them. Seeing his wounds, the Chinook clansmen smirked coldly. "Repent, explode." Boom, before the smirks could fade from their faces, those same radicals were blown to dust. The remaining clansmen stared in shock. How is that possible? Why did they self-destruct? What a terrifying genjutsu. When did it happen? It must be that pair of 3-tomo Sharingan. They looked into his eyes. To many of them, it was clear what had occurred. The ones who had just died had suddenly smiled oddly, performed hand seals, and detonated themselves. Such behavior could only mean they had fallen into an illusion. The survivors felt an icy dread rise within them. Their own eyes could cast genjutsu too, and their resistance to illusions was normally strong. Yet in just a single instant, everyone who harbored hostility had been trapped and killed. That power was truly terrifying. When the Chinook clan finally fell silent, Yuzuru stood motionless and said coldly, "Now, can we talk properly?" Invisible pressure spread through the air, forcing the clansmen to lower their heads. The elder gathered his courage and spoke. "Our people were at fault just now. Please continue." Yuzuru nodded in satisfaction. There was no need to punish them further. Being confined here for so long, it was natural for them to become unstable and quick to anger. There was no sense in taking it out on those who hadn't acted. From the reaction of those few just now, it seems you still remember the events of that era. At that time, our Uchiha clan was merely employed by the Damio of the Land of Lightning. The one you should truly hate is the Damio himself. Hearing this, the Chinook clansmen gave bitter smiles. Of course they knew it was the Damio who had ruined their lives, but what could hatred accomplish? The Damio was far beyond their reach. Then the elder suddenly realized something and asked in alarm, "My good sir, do you mean to say releasing us wasn't by the Damio's order?" If it had been the Damio's command, Yuzuru wouldn't have spoken ill of him. But if it wasn't, who would dare to free a condemned clan from the Valley of Hell without his approval? Seeing the confusion on the elder's face, Yuzuru said calmly, "The times have changed. From today onward, we no longer need to act according to the Damio's will. The era of shinobi has arrived. The age of the shinobi has arrived." Hearing Yuzuru Uchiha's words, the members of the Chinook clan trembled with excitement. Did this mean they no longer had to stay in this cursed place? "My lord, my name is Miyagi Isamu. I haven't yet had the honor of learning your name, Yuzuru Uchiha." "Lord Yuzuru, we'll go pack our things now. Please let me know if you have any instructions." Yuzuru waved his hand, signaling Miyagi Isamu to lead his people and get to work. The Chinook clan packed quickly. Within 2 hours, everyone had gathered again. In a place like Hell Valley, they didn't even have a few decent sets of clothes. Let's go. Under Yuzuru Uchiha's lead, the Chinook clan stepped out of Hell Valley for the first time. Although the outside landscape wasn't all that different, many of the clan members were moved to tears. The outside world was so vast. Compared to his clanmates, Miyagi Isamu was much calmer. Walking beside Yuzuru, he asked carefully, "Lord Yuzuru, what did you mean by what you said earlier? Our clan has been away from the shinobi world for too long. Could I trouble you to tell me what's happened during this time?" Yuzuru glanced at him and replied evenly, "After your imprisonment, not much changed in the shinobi world. Until a few decades ago, when the Uchiha and Senju clans joined forces to establish the one nation, one village system, ending the warring states era once and for all." He briefly recounted the major events. Up to the moment he led the Uchiha to the hidden cloud village and volunteered to release them. By the end, Miyagi Isamu was completely stunned. He had never imagined the outside world would produce such figures as Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. After a long silence, Miyagi Isamu bowed deeply. Lord Yuzuru, you are the savior of the Chinook clan. Whatever orders you give, we will follow without hesitation. Yuzuru smiled lightly and waved his hand. Your clan is too small now. You should focus on rebuilding your population. No matter what, increasing your numbers is what matters most. Hearing that, Miyagi-Isamu was even more moved. The man before him was nothing like the cold, ruthless Uchiha his clan's tales had described. No matter what, the Chinook clan would never forget the debt they owed Yuzuru Uchiha for freeing them from Hell Valley. Hidden Cloud Village. The Cloud Shinobi, having received advance notice, once again lined the streets. As Yuzuru Uchiha led the Chinook into the village, cheers erupted all around. So that's the Chinook clan. They say their eyes possess power second only to the Sharingan. This is amazing. Our village has gained another source of strength. It's Lord Yuzuru again. I swear, how can someone be this strong and this handsome? Ever since Lord Yuzuru came to our village, our strength has been transforming every single day. We really struck gold. Once again, thank you, Konoha. Thank you, Hokage. For the Chinook clan, this was their first time seeing so many outsiders. They had been nervous at first, but the hearty laughter of the Cloud Shinobi quickly put them at ease. When they reached the prepared clan grounds, Yuzuru spoke. Settle in first. If you need anything, find Fugaku Uchiha. He'll pass your requests to me. With that, he turned and left. Improving one's strength really wasn't easy, but what could he do? He wasn't some child of destiny. He could only work hard and grind for every ounce of power. As he walked down the road, a familiar voice echoed from a nearby training field. Yuzuru turned his head to see Obito Uchiha sparring with Kakashi Hatake. Obito lunged forward with a kunai launching attack after attack, but Kakashi dodged each one with ease. The intense offensive soon left Obito panting and slowing down. Kakashi seized the opening, swept Obito's legs, and sent him sprawling to the ground. In an instant, Kakashi's short blade was poised at Obito's neck. Damn it, Obito slammed a fist into the ground in frustration. He'd lost again. At that moment, a hand reached out toward him. You've improved a lot, but you're too impatient in battle. Obito froze, then grabbed Kakashi's offered hand and stood up. Adjusting his goggles, he shouted, "One day I'll surpass you." Kakashi snorted softly. "I'm about to become a full-fledged ninja. I might not have time to train with you every day anymore." Hua, Yuzuru, Obito, and Sakumo Hatake all turned toward him at once. Yuzuru immediately placed a hand on Kakashi's head. "You're graduating early." Kakashi stepped back a few paces, frowning. "I think I've learned everything I can from the academy." Yuzuru turned to Sakumo. "And you agreed to this?" Sakumo nodded. "I respect Kakashi's decision." "No, I disagree." Yuzuru's words left Sakumo and Kakashi stunned. Didn't agree. What did he mean? Kakashi is still too young. Becoming a ninja too early will only hinder his future growth. In Yuzuru's plan, Kakashi and Obito were supposed to graduate together. So far, the two got along well. With Rin Nohara gone, the bond between Kakashi and Obito needed to deepen even further. Yuzuru knew clearly, unlike himself, other Uchiha needed strong emotional bonds if they were to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. Hearing his words, Sakumo glanced at his son, hesitating. In many matters, Yuzuru saw farther than he did, so he had to consider Yuzuru's opinion carefully. Kakashi stepped forward. "Senior Yuzuru, even if I'm young, I'm already stronger than many genin. I believe I am fully qualified to become a shinobi now." At those words, Yuzuru's eyes flashed. He pulled a small bell from his waist and held it up. "If you can take this bell for me, I'll allow you to become a shinobi." "All right." Kakashi Hatake's eyes shone with confidence. Gripping his short blade tightly, he lunged straight at Yuzuru. "Nice speed." Yuzuru praised lightly, drawing a kunai with one hand and casually blocking Kakashi's strike. Having inherited Sakumo Hatake's swordsmanship, Kakashi's attacks were sharp and relentless. Each slash aimed precisely at Yuzuru's vital points. Yuzuru's expression didn't change. His movements seemed almost unhurried, his body light as air, yet he neutralized every strike in the simplest possible way. "Kakashi, if that's all you've got, you'd better spend a few more years settling down at the academy." At those words, Kakashi gave a stubborn snort. He pulled several shuriken from his pouch and hurled them toward Yuzuru while his hands quickly formed seals. Wind release. Wind cutter technique. Invisible wind blades shot out toward Yuzuru in an instant. Seeing this, Yuzuru's hands also blurred through seals. Fire release. Dragon fire technique. A roaring dragon of flame smashed through the wind blades and undiminished swept straight toward Kakashi. Kakashi slammed both hands onto the ground. Earth release. Earth-style wall. Boom. The fire dragon crashed into the thick earthen wall, scattering into sparks before fading away. In the next instant, Yuzuru appeared behind Kakashi, placing his kunai horizontally across the boy's neck. Kakashi, you've lost. Have I? A faint smile flashed in Kakashi's eyes before his body burst into smoke. Earth release. Headhunter jutsu. The ground split open, dragging Yuzuru down until only his head remained above the surface. Senior Yuzuru, it looks like I've won. Kakashi crouched in front of Yuzuru, a hint of pride gleaming in his eyes. Is that so? The corner of Yuzuru's mouth lifted. Then look behind you. Kakashi's heart sank. Before he could react, Yuzuru's voice came from right behind him. Secret technique, 1,000 years of death. Kakashi yelped, clutching his backside as he flew through the air, standing up and brushing off the dirt. Yuzuru laughed. Kakashi, you'd better just stay put at the academy for now. And one more thing, he added with a grin. I don't really approve of an Earth-style wall without a dog's head on it. Kakashi lay on the ground, utterly defeated, staring blankly into the distance without a word. Nearby, Obito Uchiha clenched his fists tightly, so Kakashi was that strong. To unleash ninjutsu in succession, that was something even most Chunin struggled to do, but there was no time to dwell on it. Obito hurried to Kakashi's side and began checking his condition with concern. Sakumo approached Yuzuru, his expression tinged with worry. Yuzuru, you went a bit hard on him, don't you think? Yuzuru chuckled. Kakashi's too proud at heart. A little extra tempering won't hurt. Sakumo nodded thoughtfully. If you think he still needs more polish, then he can spend a few more years at the academy. Then it's decided. Yuzuru tilted his head curiously. By the way, how's your training coming along? Not bad, Sakumo replied, channeling chakra. Purple lightning flickered across his hand. The physical refinement techniques from the hidden cloud are impressive. I feel I'm on the verge of a new breakthrough. Yuzuru's eyes widened slightly. As expected, every top-tier powerhouse was a born genius. In such a short time, Sakumo had already cultivated the purple lightning. The thought stirred something within Yuzuru. Sakumo, fight me. Raw power could suppress anything, but combat experience was just as important. A battle with someone like Sakumo would benefit Yuzuru immensely. Hearing Yuzuru's proposal, Sakumo's gaze burned with fighting spirit. Just like Yuzuru, he too longed to grow stronger through battle with the powerful. Time flew by, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. During that month, Yuzuru sparred constantly with Sakumo, a killer bee, and even the third Reikage. Under such high-intensity battles, his combat experience grew rapidly. Ding. Detected that the host's family has gained clan members with a special bloodline. Yatsuki bloodline. Current Yatsuki bloodline evolution progress. 17% ding. Detected that the host's family has gained clan members with a special bloodline. Chinook bloodline. Current Chinook bloodline evolution progress. 2%. Feeling the surge of power coursing through his body, Yuzuru's smile deepened. T/N. Idle grind now XD. In just over a month, more than 10 members of the Yatsuki clan had married into the Uchiha. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for him to evolve the Yatsuki bloodline to 100%. When that time came, his physique would surpass even the third Reikage's. What pleased Yuzuru most was that although his physical strength grew immensely with the Yatsuki bloodline, his appearance hadn't changed much. Other than more defined muscles, he was nothing like the hulking figures of the third Reikage, A, or Killer Bee. As he had guessed, the Chinook bloodline enhanced his spiritual energy. Combined with the Yatsuki's physical prowess, both his chakra and Dojutsu power had increased significantly. A complete enhancement without a single weakness. Unlike those who gained flimsy power through mere training, his was solid, overwhelming. This was the charm of a cheat-like existence. Yuzuru, are you busy? A gentle voice came from outside the door, Mikoto Uchiha. Yuzuru opened his eyes. Mikoto, what is it? She pushed the door open and entered. The third Reikage sent someone. He wants you to come to the Reikage's office. Did he say what for? It seems the Damio of the Land of Lightning has sent an emissary, Makoto said, her expression laced with worry. Yuzuru, do you think the Damios come to hold you accountable? After the Uchiha clan had settled in the hidden cloud, rumors about them had spread throughout the village. Makoto naturally knew that Yuzuru had personally freed the clan once condemned and imprisoned by the Damio. So upon hearing that the Damio had dispatched an envoy, unease crept into her heart. Seeing her troubled face, Yuzuru gently pulled her into his arms. Don't worry. This was part of my plan all along. Yuzuru said his goodbyes to Makoto Uchiha and made his way to the Reikage's tower. He had barely stepped into the office when a man in embroidered court robes was pounding the table in indignation. The third Reikage sat silent, saying nothing. When Yuzuru entered, the third Reikage finally spoke. Yuzuru, you're here. Yuzuru nodded. Before he could say a word, the man who had been slamming the table rushed up to him. You're Yuzuru Uchiha. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. I've long heard that Uchiha shinobi are arrogant, the envoy snapped, but I never imagined you'd even dare to free a criminal clan that the Damio had imprisoned. Listen well. A tool is always just a tool. It doesn't matter if others see you as some bullshit great ninja clan or as powerhouses who shake the shinobi world. You must always remember your place and are absolutely forbidden from stepping out of line. I order you to go right now and capture all those Uchiha clan members and drag them back to Hell Valley. Otherwise, the Damio's envoy paused for effect and fixed Yuzuru with a threatening look, or else the fate of the Uchiha clan will be the future of your Uchiha. Is that so? Yuzuru smiled, then abruptly reached out and grabbed the envoy by the throat, lifting his slightly short, portly body off the floor. Looks like you want to dance. The envoy hadn't expected Yuzuru to move. Feeling the raw killing intent with no attempt at concealment, he turned his face toward the third Reikage. Reikage, are you planning a rebellion? If you kill me, you will not survive the Damio's wrath, the envoy added. The third Reikage remained silent. Suffocated by the tightening grip, the envoy began to panic. He shouted at the Reikage, Reikage, the Damio has always supported you. Is this how you repay him? At that, the Reikage looked conflicted. He opened his mouth. Yuzuru, perhaps you should, snap. Before he could finish the sentence, Yuzuru snapped the envoy's neck. Third Reikage, Yuzuru said calmly afterward. You heard his words. In their eyes, we've always been nothing but tools. Support was only because you could bring them profit. If interests clash, they will cut you off without pity. They're already reacting this strongly to the release of a clan that was once slandered. Imagine what will happen if one day we don't obey their every order. Yuzuru's tone was cool and steady. Like the capitalist masters of the previous life, no matter how benevolent they might appear, their essence was exploitation. To be eternally grateful for a single kindness would be the height of foolishness. This is not child's play, Yuzuru continued. This is a life and death struggle. If we're going to act, we cannot afford mercy. The third Reikage sighed. I know, if I truly had no worries, I wouldn't have supported your decision in the first place. But when the moment comes, it's hard not to feel some hesitation. Rest assured, Yuzuru. I won't risk small losses for greater ones. In his heart, he too was very dissatisfied with the current system. Those who followed him were all brothers who had been through life and death together. They were people of flesh and blood with feelings. But those high and mighty nobles treated them as mere tools, to be discarded at will to achieve their goals. As a Kage, he had seen such things far too many times. Now that such an opportunity was before him, he absolutely could not let it pass. You can leave this matter to me, Yuzuru said. I'll go to Kyoto in person. With that, he turned and left. The Reikage was a man of loyalty and sentiment. He wouldn't force anyone's hand. After leaving the Reikage Tower, Yuzuru met with Sakumo Hatake and Fugaku Uchiha. When he explained the situation, all three nearly dropped their jaws. Overthrow the Damio, is that even possible? A blurted. Does father know about this? A asked. Yuzuru nodded. Of course, I had his approval before I released the Uchiha clan. No wonder, I drew a deep breath and grinned. I won't overthink it. If you and father have decided, then let's do it. Yuzuru turned to Fugaku. Fugaku quickly replied, Yuzuru, you told me not to overthink things. Like I'll follow whatever you say. Yuzuru nodded with approval. Fugaku's biggest flaw was indecision, but as an ally he was dependable. Yuzuru patted Fugaku on the shoulder and fixed his gaze on Sakumo Hatache. Sakumo's voice was grave. Yuzuru, I will help you accomplish whatever you need. Very well. A smile crossed Yuzuru's face. Sakumo had the steadfast honor of a traditional warrior. Once he pledged loyalty, he obeyed without question. To Sakumo, ordering him to kill the daimyo was no different than ordering him to kill a rabid dog, as long as the object of his loyalty remained intact. After gauging each man's resolve, Yuzuru raised his hand. Let's move out. Yes, Land of Lightning, Kyoto, daimyo's residence. The daimyo of the Land of Lightning sat at the head of the hall and addressed his ministers. I've already sent word to the Cloud-Hidden Village. I expect the Reikage will redetain the Uchiha Clan soon. The messenger should return with news shortly. One minister spoke in a low voice. My lord, this is not so simple. They released the imprisoned clan without seeking your permission. That means they hold you in contempt. Another minister agreed. Exactly. We should have them eliminate the Uchiha clan entirely to prove their loyalty. We should cut funding to the Cloud-Hidden Village so they learn the cost of insolence. Bring the Reikage to Kyoto to offer a formal apology in person. You have been too lenient with them, Lord Damio. That's why they grow bold. Those shinobi must be kept under constant pressure. I think we should follow the Wind Country's example. Starve them and they'll learn who their true benefactor is. The daimyo looked troubled. You're not wrong. But what if the Reikage resists? That man has always had a temper. Silence fell for a moment, and then the ministers laughed. Ha 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 ha, my lord, you're joking. How could those lowly shinobi dare to oppose you? Exactly, you're worrying for nothing. You are the master of the Land of Lightning. If they defy your command, the whole shinobi world will turn against them. The Reikage wouldn't be stupid enough to provoke that. Chapter 65, one word unchanged. The bonus chapter. Having listened to his retainers argue, the daimyo of the Land of Lightning felt his tension ease a little. Yes. He'd been worrying too much. Since ancient times, no shinobi had dared defy a daimyo's orders. Amused at his own thoughts, the daimyo gave a light laugh and said calmly, You're right. This time I will properly punish those shinobi, especially the Uchiha clan. We took them in, and they repay us with ingratitude worse, committing such an act of treachery. They must be severely punished. No sooner had the daimyo finished speaking than the door to the room was flung open. Fugaku Uchiha, and Hatache Sakumo charged in. Behind them, a black-haired, black-eyed youth walked in at a measured pace. The daimyo and his ministers froze for a moment, then anger flared across their faces. You bastards, who let you barge in here? Fugaku, and Sakumo remained silent. Yuzuru spoke slowly. I am Yuzuru, the one who released the Uchiha clan's shinobi from Hell Valley. A minister rose and barked coldly. Have you come to confess and accept punishment? Yuzuru sneered. Clearly, I came to make trouble. The daimyo suddenly shouted, Guards, seize them, kill these traitors. Even a fool could understand now. The shinobi of the Cloud-Hidden Village had rebelled. At the daimyo's command, a dozen bodyguard ninja materialized and instantly surrounded Yuzuru and his companions. Ever since the decline of the samurai, the daimyo of every nation had hired shinobi to protect them. They answered only to the daimyo, and their strengths varied. In the original story, Sarutobi Asuma once served as a guardian shinobi for the daimyo of the Land of Fire for a period. Fugaku, Sakumo, you deal with them. Yuzuru spoke calmly, then began to walk slowly toward the daimyo of the Land of Lightning. The dozen or so guardian shinobi immediately launched their attacks at Yuzuru, but Hatache Sakumo and the others were faster. Amidst a series of blood-curdling screams, Yuzuru reached the daimyo. Looking at the exquisite fruit platter placed before him, Yuzuru took out a kunai. Feeling the cold chill emanating from the kunai, the daimyo of the Land of Lightning swallowed hard. It was only when death was upon him that he realized how foolish his and his minister's words had just been. No matter how high and mighty they usually were, the moment the shinobi under them rebelled, they would become nothing more than pigs and sheep awaiting slaughter. Having understood this, the daimyo of the land of lightning said with a trembling voice, Can we reconcile? Yuzuru raised an eyebrow and smiled. Are you joking? With that, the kunai sliced directly across the daimyo's throat. The daimyo clutched his neck tightly, but he couldn't stop the flow of his life. Before his consciousness faded, only one thought remained in his mind. Why did I have to provoke this bunch of desperados over an insignificant ninja clan? They killed the daimyo, those lunatics. Please don't kill me. I'll give you anything. By publicly assassinating the daimyo, you have broken the old compact. The hidden cloud village is finished, and the land of lightning will be plunged into misery because of you. That's right. From this day forward, you are the enemies of everyone in the shinobi world. When Senju Hashirama established the village system, he stipulated the relationship between the daimyo and the shinobi. The daimyo was the master of the country, with the right to decide on all national matters. This concept was deeply ingrained in people's minds and had persisted for decades. Now that the hidden cloud's shinobi had openly murdered their daimyo, the other daimyo would not sit idly by. Once they dispatched their troops, both the land of lightning and the hidden cloud village would be doomed. Ignoring the minister's roars, Fugaku Uchiha walked up to Yuzuru and asked, Yuzuru, what do we do next? Yuzuru scanned the room and said slowly, choose one of the daimyo's heirs, a girl willing to proclaim that the daimyo submits to the cage and install her as the new daimyo. Tell our plan to the ministers who are willing to submit to us. Kill all who are unwilling. The concept of the daimyo's supremacy was deeply ingrained. To make shinobi the ruling class, it wasn't enough to simply kill the daimyo. They also had to make people accept the concept of shinobi supremacy. And that would require a transition period, after all. Having the original rulers proactively promote this matter would be far more effective than them trying to spread it themselves. Hearing this, Fugaku glanced at the ministers in the room and asked, what if none of them are willing? Then kill them all and promote new people from the lower ranks. Yuzuru snorted coldly. There's no shortage of people who would scramble for the status of royalty and nobility. After hearing Yuzuru's words, all the ministers present couldn't help but show looks of terror. They never imagined that this young man who appeared so harmless could be so ruthless and cruel. Some of the quicker-witted ministers immediately knelt on the floor, shouting loudly, "We are willing to submit to you from now on. Please spare our lives." Seeing the once high-end mighty ministers kneeling on the ground, anxiously awaiting their judgment, Fugaku Uchiha, headache Sakumo, and felt a wave of complex emotions. This is the kind of person who used to rule over us to have sacrificed so many lives for people like this. It truly wasn't worth it for our fallen comrades, Fugaku, place a prohibition curse on them. If they dare have any second thoughts, annihilate their entire families. Seeing the ministers take the initiative to surrender, Yuzuru didn't push for a complete slaughter. It was just a transition of power anyway. Sparing their lives wouldn't hurt. Once everything stabilized in the future, these ministers would no longer be necessary. Hearing Yuzuru's command, Fugaku Uchiha immediately nodded in agreement. He then began placing prohibition curses on the ministers. While Fugaku was busy, headache Sakumo spoke up. Yuzuru, what should be the official story for today's events? Without a second thought, Yuzuru said, just say the daimyo slipped and fell into the water, and the new daimyo received a divine dream, telling her to cede authority to the shinobi. Without changing a single word, not a single word is to be changed. After arranging all the follow-up matters, Yuzuru found a place to start training. He had killed the daimyo today and seized control of the situation in the land of lightning. However, when the news that the daimyo was now subordinate to the shinobi spread, it would surely cause a massive uproar in the shinobi world. The daimyo of the other nations, in order to protect their own rule, would absolutely not let this go. Next, it was highly likely they would have to face a tough battle. Under Yuzuru Uchiha's immense power, the shinobi supremacy plan progressed with exceptional smoothness. Faced with the bloody butcher's knife, the pampered nobles chose to submit at the first opportunity. Within only a week, all of Kyoto was completely under Yuzuru's control. The newly appointed daimyo herself even publicly endorsed the idea of granting authority to shinobi. things went so smoothly that even Sakumo Hatake, and Fugaku Uchiha were left speechless. Their illusions had been completely shattered, and their resolve only grew stronger. It was one thing when they didn't know better, but now that they did, how could they continue letting these cowardly parasites sit above them, flaunting power they didn't deserve? Such a thing could no longer be tolerated. However, as events continued to unfold, the entire land of lightning began to grow restless. Inside the daimyo's residence, Yuzuru sat in the main seat while the newly appointed daimyo knelt beside him, serving tea. She was the eldest princess of the former daimyo, gentle in temperament and clear-headed. Once she recognized the situation for what it was, she chose to cooperate fully with Yuzuru's plan. Thanks to her assistance, the plan had advanced as far as it had. Yuzuru, a message from Lord Reikage. Fugaku Uchiha entered, glancing at the kneeling daimyo with mixed feelings. Whether it had been in Konoha back then, or now before the mighty daimyo, Yuzuru always managed to turn impossible situations into realities that defied reason. Perhaps he himself needed to start acting with a bit more boldness too. Yuzuru popped a grape into his mouth and said calmly, "Fugaku, what did the third say?" Fugaku replied immediately. "Lord Reikage said he's already sent people to begin clearing the bandits across the land of lightning. Police forces are being established in every region, centered around small towns to maintain public order in nearby villages. However, we may not have enough ninja. Lord Reikage would like to hear your opinion on how to handle that. Also, some local nobles are refusing to cooperate, claiming we assassinated the daimyo." After listening, Yuzuru said indifferently, "Tell the third to decide the police forces as he sees fit. As for the lack of ninja, that can wait. Now that ninja hold a higher status, there will be no shortage of people wanting to become one in the future. And as for those who resist, kill all who refuse to yield. Those who can't keep up with the times are destined to be eliminated." The daimyo beside him trembled involuntarily. Fortunately, she had chosen not to oppose him, otherwise she would already be a corpse. Thinking that, she lowered her head even further. From now on, she must curry favor with Yuzuru no matter what. As for revenge, what a joke. The difference in power erased any notion of hatred. She should be grateful he hadn't wiped her family out entirely. While she was lost in fearful thoughts, Fugaku spoke again, uneasy. "Yuzuru, there are quite a few people against this. If we kill them all, won't it hurt our image?" He just resolved to act more boldly, but killing every dissenter felt too extreme. They were to be rulers now, shouldn't they care about appearances at least a little? Hearing that, Yuzuru chuckled softly. "Fugaku, don't worry, just do as I said. When the time comes, others will justify our actions for us." Seeing the quiet confidence in Yuzuru's expression, Fugaku said nothing more and turned to leave. Once he was gone, Yuzuru said to the daimyo beside him, "Bring me a map of the land of lightning." To make a nation prosper, one must first build roads. Now that he was the master of this land, the builder's urge within him was growing hard to suppress. While the reforms burned fiercely in the land of lightning, the entire shinobi world was thrown into turmoil. Daimyos across the nations denounced the country for placing ninja above nobility, accusing the shinobi of Kumigakure of staging a coup. They vowed to send troops to eliminate the rebels and restore order to the land of lightning. Land of Wind, Sunagakure, looking at the vast wealth and supplies sent by the Wind Country's daimyo, the third Kazekage's face was filled with glee. Since his rise to power, the village had always struggled with funding. He had never seen so much money before. Seeing the third Kazekage's money-grubbing look, Chiyo, who was at his side, couldn't help but remind him, "What do you plan to do about this matter?" The third Kazekage immediately replied, "Of course we'll send troops to attack Kumigakure. They've always coveted our Kekkei Genkai. The Uchiha slaughtered many of our ninja last time, now they've brought this upon themselves. It's the perfect chance for revenge. And besides," he sneered, "the land of lightning is rich in resources. Once we invade, even claiming a few mines will solve our financial problems forever." Chiyo shook her head. "Lord Third, Kumigakure is strong. Have you considered the consequences if we lose?" "Lose," the Kazekage scoffed. This time, the four great daimyo have spoken together, calling for an allied ninja army. Even if Kumagakure is strong, do you think they can fight all 4 great villages at once? Seeing Chiyo still wanting to argue, the Kazekage slammed his hand on the desk. Enough, it's settled. We'll send 3,000 shinobi. Let's take what we can while we can. Land of Earth, Iwagakure Kitsuchi laid a scroll before Anoki and said solemnly, Father, the daimyo has ordered us to join Konoha, Sunagakure, and Kirigakure in attacking Kumagakure. What do you think? Floating midair with his hands clasped behind him, Anoki gazed out the window. Kitsuchi, this time we'll send a token force of 1,000 shinobi just for show. Kitsuchi was surprised. Is that really wise? What if the daimyo punishes us afterward? HMPH, Anoki turned, fixing his son with a sharp glare. You have no idea how terrifying the Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan truly is. If Hashirama Senju hadn't stopped Madara Uchiha back then, the existence of daimyos might not have lasted at all. Now, another pair of Mangekyo eyes has appeared among the Uchiha. I'd rather not provoke them needlessly. Besides, he continued, what Kumagakure achieved, we of Iwagakure can achieve too. If the allied army actually won, that would be fine. But if they failed, then perhaps they could follow Yuzuru's example and deal with their own daimyo instead. Kitsuchi stared in shock. Could his father, who always seemed so steady and honest, actually be thinking of overthrowing the daimyo too? Compared to him, Kitsuchi suddenly felt naive. Father, as expected of you, you're truly cunning. Cough, cough. Anoki nearly spat blood. Cunning. This is called foresight. Kitsuchi, if you don't know how to use a word properly, don't use it at all. And another thing, when we're working, address me by title. Kitsuchi nodded. Understood, Title-sama. You, crack, oh, what's wrong, Title-sama? Stop calling me that. I just threw my back out. Land of Water, hidden mist village. Behind his desk sat Yagura Karatachi, while Genji stood respectfully to the side. After dealing with a few documents, Yagura spoke up. Genji, what do you think? Should we obey the daimyo's order and attack the hidden cloud village? Looking at the youngest Mizukage in history, Genji pondered for a moment before replying, I think we should. Yagura raised an eyebrow, curiosity flashing across his youthful face. Oh, and your reasoning, Genji's tone turned grave. Ever since the third Mizukage era, we've cut off contact with the outside world. While our ninjas still take assassination contracts now and then, the income from that is barely a drop in the ocean for the entire village. If we lose the daimyo's support, the village could plunge into chaos overnight. Yagura exhaled softly, his expression tightening. Then how many should we send to attack the cloud village? Genji replied coldly. We can let the clans with Kekkei Genkai handle it. It's a good opportunity to trim their strength. Then let the Hazuki, Kaguya, and Yuki clans take part, Yagura decided. Unlike other hidden villages, Kirigakure had long enforced a policy of isolation, rarely engaging with the world beyond its borders. To the village's leadership, the clans with powerful bloodline limits and large populations posed the greatest internal threat. At times, these clans even defied the Mizukage's orders outright. Thus, every Mizukage in history held a certain disdain for them. This was the perfect chance to weaken those troublesome bloodline clans. Then it's decided, Yagura said with a nod. Add in 2,000 ordinary shinobi as well. That'll satisfy the daimyo's expectations. Genji bowed. Understood, I'll make the arrangements. Land of Fire. Hidden Leaf Village. Inside the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat behind his desk, his face brimming with excitement. Excellent, truly excellent. That idiot Uchiha Yuzuru actually killed the daimyo of the Land of Lightning. Finally, I can wash away all the humiliation we've suffered before. His eyes gleamed as he muttered feverishly to himself. Ever since the Uchiha clan's defection, he hadn't had a single peaceful night. First, Kushina had been swayed away. Then came the Ninetales rampage, and right after that, defeat and reparations. If Sakumo Hatake hadn't diverted public fury at the time, Hiruzen would have already been forced out of office by the villagers. Originally, he planned to lie low. After all, Konoha was in no state to face Kumagakure head-on, but then Yuzuru handed him a divine gift. He killed a daimyo. Just as his teacher had once warned, the Uchiha, born of evil, were the root of all chaos. At that moment, Danzo Shimura barged into the office, brimming with enthusiasm. Hiruzen, the Damio is calling for a ninja alliance. This is our chance to strike at the hidden cloud. Hiruzen took a long drag from his pipe and grinned. Danzo, for once, you and I are on the exact same page. If we unite with the other villages, we'll crush Kumigakure so thoroughly they won't know which way is up. Then, after tossing them a bit of money to make peace, we'll finally have some breathing room. Danzo blinked. Wait, we win and we still have to pay them. Hiruzen froze, then gave an awkward laugh. Ah, slip of the tongue, I meant they'll be paying us, of course. Danzo didn't press the issue. What matters most is forcing them to hand over the Uchiha Clan. Our rogue clan members must be dealt with by our village. Fine, Hiruzen agreed. Have each clan send more shinobi. We'll mobilize at least 3,000. Danzo, I'll leave the coordination to you. Danzo's lips curled. All right, but I want to be the supreme commander. Fine. Go. With orders in hand, Danzo left briskly, gently closing the door behind him. Hiruzen leaned back, satisfaction in his eyes. Once they crushed the hidden cloud, who would dare question him, the strongest Hokage. Under the daimyo's joint command, the ninja alliance, formed by the hidden leaf, hidden stone, hidden sand, and hidden mist, quickly came together. Konoha contributed the most, 4,000 shinobi. The hidden sand followed with 3,000. The hidden mist provided 2,000, many of them Kekkei Genkai users, and the hidden stone sent the fewest, just 1,000. After about a month of joint drills, the 10,000-strong alliance under Danzo Shimura's overall command held a grand oath ceremony, then marched in full force toward the Land of Lightning. Land of Lightning, Hidden Cloud Village. The moment Uchiha Yuzuru stepped into the Reikage's office, the third Reikage slammed a heavy fist against his chest. My brother, you're finally back. The revolution in the Land of Lightning is complete. From now on, no more budget constraints, no more bowing to nobles and lords. This is all thanks to you. Even I, the Reikage, feel humbled. In recent days, they had seized total control of the Land of Lightning. They'd established police-like institutions across the nation, built roads and bridges, and earned the people's praise. The Reikage had been ready for a desperate fight, but everything had gone far smoother than expected. Yuzuru smiled faintly. If it fails, it's a coup. If it succeeds, it's a revolution. This victory doesn't belong to me alone, it belongs to all of us. Hearing that, the Reikage roared with laughter. Accepting the Uchiha clan had been the best decision of his life. He and Yuzuru truly shared the same spirit. Reikage-sama, Mabuma rushed into the room, bowing quickly after seeing Yuzuru. Lord Yuzuru, the Reikage frowned. Mabuma, what's the matter? You look tense. Mabuma took a deep breath. Reikage-sama, a ninja alliance of 10,000 made up of Konoha, Iwagakure, Kirigakure, and Sunagakure has already set out. They'll reach our borders soon. I came to ask for your orders. The Reikage and Yuzuru exchanged a glance, then both burst into laughter. Yuzuru, the Reikage grinned. I think we're thinking the same thing. Why don't you tell Mabuma? Yuzuru nodded, eyes sharp. If they're coming, we'll fight. It's only a mere 10,000-strong ninja alliance. The advantage is ours. Chapter 68, The Outbreak of War, the Land of Lightning, Border Region. A vast, open plain stretched out beneath the sky. Ahead stood a massive platform rising several dozen meters high. Uchiha Yuzuru and the third Reikage stood at the forefront. The fierce wind whipped at their cloaks, their arms crossed as they stood side by side. Below them, the Cloud Ninja stood in perfect formation. Everyone stood quietly in place, making no sound. The headbands on the Cloud Shinobi's foreheads converged into a silver torrent under the sunlight. Across from them, separated by less than a kilometer, stood the united army of Konohagakure, Iwagakure, Sunagakure, and Kirigakure. The two forces faced each other in silence, the air thick with the scent of blood and steel. At the front of the allied shinobi forces stood Shimura Danzo, eyes gleaming with excitement, so many ninja waiting for his command, all ready to move at his word. This feeling, it was intoxicating. Across the entire shinobi world, who else had ever commanded the combined might of 4 great villages? Not even Hashirama Senju or Uchiha Madara could boast such authority. After this battle, his name would shake the world. Danzo took a deep breath, his voice amplified by chakra as it echoed across the ranks. Before us stands the rebellion of Kumigakure. Today, no matter the cost, we will crush them. Charge. As soon as his words fell, the army of 10,000 moved as one, like a colossal, well-oiled machine turning into motion, rushing toward the cloud forces. Meanwhile, the cloud ninja spread out, their orderly formation dividing into 4 wide channels. The next instant, a killer bee, Sakumo Hatake, and Fugaku Uchiha stepped to the front. Boom, the third Reikage leapt from the towering platform like a cannonball, crashing into the ground with such force that a web of cracks spread out in all directions. Ha 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 ha, I've been waiting for this. Finally, a battle worth my blood. Today, I'll show you what it means to be the strongest Reikage. As his voice thundered across the field, a killer bee, Sakumo, and Fugaku joined him at his back. 5 figures stood tall, unflinching before 10,000 enemies. The allied shinobi stared in disbelief. Are they serious? Only 5 people against all of us. The third Reikage, the tailed beast Jinchuriki, Sakumo Hatake, and Fugaku Uchiha. Shouldn't they be behind the lines commanding the troops? Have those cloud fools lost their minds? Do they think 5 men can stop 10,000? Bastards. That's beyond arrogance, they're mocking us. Hearing their outrage, the third Reikage only laughed harder. 10,000 ninja. Ha, for us, that's enough. With great power comes great responsibility. To protect our village and our comrades, that is my duty as Reikage. Even if I die here, I'll guard the sprouts of our next generation. Raised his voice to match him. That's right, we won't let our comrades die for nothing, the allied shinobi faltered. Many looked confused, especially those from Konoha. Why did those words sound familiar? At the rear, Shimura Danzo's face darkened. Those cloud bastards were mocking them, mocking Konoha, and of course, it had to be those accursed Uchiha behind it. But fine. Let them throw their lives away for pride. They'd regret it soon enough. The third Reikage didn't care what the enemy thought. With a flash of lightning, his body blurred forward, charging straight into the allied ranks. Fugaku, Sakumo, and followed instantly. B. At A's call, Killer Bitake's chakra erupted violently, his massive form swelling until the 8 tails stood revealed. Ruuar, a gigantic tailed beast ball gathered at its mouth, and fired straight toward the allied army. Seeing it coming, the Iwanin slammed their hands onto the ground. Earth release, infinite earth flow wall, thick stone walls shot upward, forming an impenetrable barrier. But in the next second, boom, the tailed beast ball tore through all of it, detonating amidst the allied ranks. The explosion was catastrophic. In an instant, countless shinobi were annihilated. Before they could recover, a second tailed beast ball followed. Boom, the ground quaked violently. The army reeled under another wave of destruction. Quick, stop the 8 tails. We can't let it fire again. They had prepared for this scenario. A squad of elite shinobi immediately charged toward the monstrous beast. Not before you get past us. Hell stab, 4-fingered Nukite. The third Reikage's form flashed. Dozens of shinobi were obliterated in a heartbeat. Sakumo, A, and Fugaku followed close behind, their combined assault ripping through the allied formation like a spear point. Fire release. Great fire technique. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Dozens of enemy shinobi launched their combination jutsu. Flames and wind engulfed the third Reikage's form, but he burst out unscathed the next instant. Ha 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 ha, is that all? You're only tickling me. A true battle ends in one strike, he roared, and more shinobi fell, bodies torn apart. Against such a vast army, he didn't even need to think. Just keep moving, hand raised, slaughtering everything in his path, not far away, a rampage like a living bolt of lightning. He didn't possess his father's insane defense, so he targeted the densest clusters of enemies. Many hesitated, afraid of hitting their comrades with large-scale jutsu. That hesitation was his weapon. Perfect, exhilarating, laughed madly. He darted through their ranks, untouchable. Kunai and lesser jutsu bounced off his lightning armor, while every elbow strike he threw crushed another foe. Elsewhere, Fugaku Uchiha's eyes spun, 3 tamo glinting blood red. Every movement of his enemies lay bare before him. No matter the attack, he always chose the perfect counter. His elegant swordplay and precise movements turned the battlefield into a deadly dance. He was a butterfly amid fire and blood. Everyone attack at once. Even if it hits our comrades, it's better than being cut down one by one. A desperate shinobi shouted, only for his heart to be pierced from behind the next second. He turned in disbelief to see his comrades' blank, illusion-clouded eyes. Resisting the Sharingan's genjutsu while facing his flawless blade techniques and watching out for teammates turned into enemies, he was just a simple genin. How was he supposed to fight this? Fugaku ignored the corpse and kept swinging his blade. During his time in Kumigakure, he had studied their lightning release body reinforcement techniques. He hadn't mastered the lightning chakra armor, but his physical power had increased dramatically. Speed, strength, endurance. Every aspect of his body had evolved. As his sword sliced through another Konoha ninja's throat, Fugaku spoke coldly. This time, we are no longer comrades. Lament your unfortunate fate born without the Sharingan. Chapter 69 Stalemate. Please don't kill me. Lord Sakumo, you once saved me, don't you remember? The Konoha ninja's voice trembled with desperation, but Hadake Sakumo's eyes held no emotion. With one clean motion, his short blade sliced through the man's neck. The Konoha ninja collapsed lifelessly. Unlike Uchiha Fugaku's grand and overwhelming style, Sakumo's combat followed a single principle: swift, precise, and ruthless. Using the least chakra and the simplest movements to eliminate any enemy before him. That was the essence of his blade. For other villages, shinobi, it was one thing. The name White Fang of Konoha had already spread across the entire shinobi world since the Second Great Ninja War. But for Konoha's own ninja, this was their first time facing Hadake Sakumo as an enemy. When he was their comrade, they hadn't felt much. But now that he stood before them as their executioner, they finally understood why enemies once trembled at the mention of his name. No matter how many of them attacked, no matter what jutsu they used, they couldn't stop that sharp, merciless blade from cutting them down one by one. Bitterness welled in their hearts. Why? He was one of them, one of Konoha's own, and now he had become the sword that slaughtered them, and the Uchiha Clan, their powerful Kekkei Genkai, now stood as an insurmountable mountain on the battlefield. They had once fought side by side, once protected them countless times, so why had everything turned into this? Damn it, how did it come to this? At the allied shinobi forces' rear lines, Shimura Danzo slammed his hand against the table in fury. The other village commanders looked just as grim. They had thought the hidden cloud had gone insane, sending only 5 ninja to intercept their army. Yet 5 against 10,000 had somehow become a reality. The Eight Tails continued firing tailed beast bombs from afar, while the third Reikage, Hadake Sakumo, and Uchiha Fugaku used the chaos to tear through the ranks again and again. A force of 10,000 had been completely stalled. Many had already lost the will to fight. And worse, nearly 10,000 cloud shinobi still waited on the sidelines, watching the battle with predatory eyes. If we keep clinging to this idea of conserving our strength, Orochimaru said calmly, we'll be crushed. What do you all think? After a brief silence, the other commanders nodded. Danzo's expression hardened. Konoha will send Orochimaru and 30 Jonin to the front line, 16 of them elite Jonin. What about you? The Mist commander replied at once. I brought over 10 elite Jonin. 3 of them possess the Shikitsamiyaku, hydrification technique, and ice release. The Sand commander, Ibizo, said gravely, we'll send 10 elite Jonin from Sunagakure as well. At the far end of the table, Kitsuchi waved his hands hastily as everyone turned toward him. Our Iwagakure forces aren't as strong as yours. Sending 1,000 ninja was already pushing it. Everyone's faces filled with disdain. 1,000 old and weak shinobi, and he dares call that pushing it still. No one argued further. Their alliance was temporary. No one had the authority to command the others. Finally, Danzo slammed his palm down. Then it's settled, dismissed. Once the meeting ended, each village sent their top fighters into battle. Dozens of elite Jonin joined the fray, and the effect was immediate. Hidden mist technique, thick fog spread across the battlefield, swallowing everything. Then a man wearing sunglasses stepped forward. Secret technique, insect gathering formation. Secret technique, insect sphere. Countless Kakachu insects scattered through the fog, swarming toward and engulfing him. Snorted coldly. The mist and the insects made it difficult to sense chakra. It was impossible to charge recklessly as before. And those insects, there were too many of them. They clung to his lightning chakra armor, gnawing at it relentlessly. They couldn't harm him directly, but they doubled his chakra consumption. No, I have to break through. A's mind sharpened. He pushed his lightning release chakra mode to its limit. But by then, the trap had already closed around him. The Aburame, Inuzuka, and Minazuki clans had all joined forces. Even if they couldn't defeat him outright, they managed to hold him down. Hidden mist technique. HMP. Uchiha Fugaku scoffed, unafraid. The mist restrained the Sharingan's vision, but he was confident he could kill his enemies the instant they revealed themselves. A shinobi wearing a mist headband lunged at him with a massive sword. Fugaku thrust his blade straight into the attacker's chest, but the body dissolved into water. The hydrification technique of the Uchiha Clan, Fugaku smirked. Then let me show you what I've been working on lately. The chirping of 1,000 birds filled the air as lightning burst around him. Chidori Nagashi, lightning tore through the enemy's liquefied form, paralyzing him. Fugaku swung his sword once more, cleaving the shinobi clean in half. At that moment, 2-leaf ninja appeared from behind, surrounding him. The Uchiha Clan, huh? You two think you can stop me? The Uchiha sneered. Here, the advantage is ours. Today we'll prove that the Byakugan is the strongest Kekkei Genkai. The Sharingan's power was great, but in the fog its vision was hindered. The Byakugan, however, saw everything clearly. Fugaku burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, then let's see if your strength matches that big talk. He charged head-on, clashing fiercely with the two Uchiha. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Hatake Sakumo darted between enemies, dodging the Nara clan's shadow bindings while staying wary of the Yamanaka clan's mind transfer technique. In a place like this, a single second of control meant instant death. He wanted to target the Nara and Yamanaka first, but the Akimichi who had eaten their secret pills stood firmly in front, guarding them. Around them, nearly 100 ninja formed a tight perimeter, protecting their support teams. Among them was a shinobi with the Shikitsamiyaku, bones covering his entire body like armor. Sakumo continued cutting down enemies, but he could feel it, the circle closing around him, little by little. Chapter 70, the third power, summoning technique. Boom. A massive cloud of smoke erupted, and the enormous body of Manda appeared beneath Orochimaru's feet. Manda shook his head irritably and roared, Orochimaru, I was sleeping. You've ruined my dream again. Orochimaru smiled. Manda, I'll offer you a new sacrifice. Hearing this, Manda hissed in warning. This time I want fresh living humans. If you try to fool me with those corpses from your lab again, I won't forgive you. I know. I'll meet your demand. Satisfied by the promise, Manda nodded. Fine, so why did you summon me this time? To hold off the 8 tails. Fine. After Orochimaru promised to double the offering, Manda reluctantly slithered forward, charging at the 8 tails, with Manda temporarily keeping the beast busy and preventing it from releasing a tailed beast bomb. Orochimaru finally turned his gaze away. Just as he was about to assist the allied shinobi forces, he suddenly felt someone's eyes on him. Turning his head, he saw Yuzuru Uchiha seated calmly atop a high platform tens of meters above, his pitch-black eyes deep as an abyss. Orochimaru used the body flicker technique and appeared before Yuzuru in an instant. Yuzuru greeted him with a faint smile. Orochimaru, we meet again. Orochimaru's golden eyes gleamed with curiosity. Yuzuru-kun, you intrigue me more and more. Even while the third Reikage himself charges through the battlefield below, you can just sit here at ease. Honestly, calling you the cage of the hidden cloud wouldn't even sound out of place. Yuzuru replied calmly. Not every cage is as cowardly as Hiruzen Sarutobi. As the village's strongest force, isn't it natural to be on the front lines? Orochimaru chuckled. Yuzuru-kun, you're not still fantasizing about having me work under you, are you? It's not a fantasy. It's a reality that will happen. Orochimaru's tongue slid across his cheek as his expression turned cold. You're insane, Yuzuru-kun. Killing a daimyo so brazenly, most wouldn't even dare think it, but arrogance like yours always comes with a price. He narrowed his eyes, his killing intent sharp as a blade. So now show me your full power. I'll defeat you and let you see what reality truly means. Feeling the battle intent radiating from Orochimaru, Yuzuru sighed. Always someone eager to taste failure. His black eyes shifted into a pair of crimson Mangekyo Sharingan. Very well, I'll grant your wish. In that instant, a chill of death swept through Orochimaru's heart. Countless brushes with death had honed his instincts, and his body screamed to evade, but before he could react, a tearing pain ripped through his arm. The next second, his left arm fell to the ground. Don't move. Yuzuru said evenly. Next time, it'll be your head that separates from your body. His tone was calm, yet sweat streamed down Orochimaru's face. What just happened? Yuzuru hadn't even moved. He hadn't sensed a thing. Yet his arm was gone. Was this the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, so tyrannical? Orochimaru, Yuzuru said, his voice carrying the weight of command. Cancel Manda's summoning. It sounded less like a request and more like an order from a superior. Orochimaru hesitated, then pressed his remaining right hand to the ground with a grimace. Summoning release. Manda's enormous body vanished instantly. The eight tails blinked in confusion, scratched its head, and then resumed charging a tailed beast bomb toward the Shinobi Alliance. Why didn't you kill me? Orochimaru rasped, his voice lower and more hoarse than before. Though Yuzuru's power terrified him, what puzzled him even more was why his enemy had spared him. Yuzuru smiled faintly. I told you already, your talents can serve me well. For someone as unique as you, I'm willing to be patient. Seeing that Yuzuru truly didn't intend to kill him, Orochimaru relaxed slightly, though his slitted eyes still glared warily. Yuzuru-kun, he hissed, the moment you left Konoha, we became enemies. My teacher is the Hokage. I'm destined to become Hokage one day. And you are a Konoha rogue. Yuzuru snorted softly. Orochimaru, you might never become Hokage, and I might never truly be a rogue. Orochimaru frowned, confused by his words. Then tell me, what is it about me that interests you so much? Yuzuru rose slowly, brushing dust from his cloak, and looked down at the raging battlefield below. Life is too fragile, this world too dull. I will reshape the Shinobi world into the image I desire, and talents like yours, scientific minds, are exactly what I need. After a few exchanges, Orochimaru no longer felt that initial fear. He licked his lips and grinned. You speak as if you understand me completely, Yuzuru-kun. Perhaps, Yuzuru said with a soft clap of his hands. Third Reikage, that's enough fun for now, isn't it? At his words, the third Reikage appeared beside him in a flash. It's been ages since I've had such a good fight. I feel like I could go another 2 days straight. Then, noticing Orochimaru nearby, his aura flared violently. What's he doing here? Third, Yuzuru said. Let him go. I have my own plans for him. The third Reikage, having gone through much with Yuzuru already, nodded without hesitation. Fine, I'll leave him to you. Orochimaru's jaw dropped. Even with his connection to Hiruzen, he could never imagine the Hokage ignoring a foreign cage-level enemy based on a single word. As they spoke, Sakumo Hatake, a killer bee, and Fugaku returned to Yuzuru's side. Unlike the third Reikage, they were exhausted. Half a day of relentless battle had left them drained. Yuzuru, Fugaku asked, are you ready for the next phase? The comrades in the village are growing restless. No, Yuzuru said, shaking his head. I've changed my mind. Originally, he had planned for the third Reikage, Sakumo, Killer Bee, and Fugaku to completely dismantle the allied shinobi ranks, allowing the Cloud Ninja to seize control of the battlefield. But after watching the chaos unfold, even he couldn't help but feel his blood boil. That deep thirst for battle, he could no longer ignore it. Yuzuru leapt from the platform, his eyes blazing. In midair, his Dijutsu power surged violently. A colossal, pitch-black demonic figure, over 100 meters tall, materialized before the allied forces. Yuzuru's voice echoed across the battlefield like thunder. This is the third power, Susanoo, the divine strength of the Uchiha Clan. Chapter 71 Collapse. The colossal Susanoo appeared before the allied shinobi forces like a god of destruction from legend. Each step it took made the earth quake beneath its weight. The shinobi froze in place, their minds blank. The third power, Susanoo. Is this really something a ninja can control? It feels even more oppressive than the Eight Tails' presence. Uchiha Yuzuru was hiding something like this. Heh, that has to be a joke. I don't believe it. It's just some kind of illusion meant to scare us off. Don't fall for it. Don't give up. Attack together. Victory will be ours. That's right. Prepare to strike. Kill. Recovering from their initial shock, the allied shinobi forces let out a chorus of wild cries. No matter how strong Uchiha Yuzuru appeared, he was still just one man. If they attacked all at once, he couldn't possibly withstand it. Every ninja began to draw out their chakra, unleashing ninjutsu with all their strength. Wind, lightning, water, fire, earth. Dozens of techniques combined into a raging torrent that crashed against Susanu's massive body. A deafening roar tore through the battlefield as the ground shuddered like a waking dragon. In an instant, thick smoke and dust enveloped everything. Everyone stared into the haze, eyes wide, hearts pounding. With that much power, there was no way Uchiha Yuzuru could have survived. But then, a wave of invisible force exploded outward, scattering the dust in all directions. Susanu stood untouched, emerging once more from the smoke. How is that possible? Our attack didn't even scratch him. Damn it, what the hell is this monster? This is hopeless. How are we supposed to win against that? Can a human even be that strong? Above them, Yuzuru looked down upon the shinobi like ants, arms crossed and expression cold. Having the courage to challenge me is impressive, he said softly, but that's the only thing I can praise you for. Because challenging a god is nothing short of folly. As his voice fell silent, Susanu's massive hand grasped the blade at its waist. Kamui realm-severing slash, the blade left its sheath, releasing a streak of pitch-black energy. Where the blade passed, space itself split like a mirror being shattered in two. In the wake of the dark slash, thousands of ninja were erased, reduced to dust in an instant. For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to stop. The world fell silent. Cloud shinobi and allied shinobi alike stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had happened. Then, a trembling voice broke the stillness. No, no, we can't beat him. Run, everyone run. Panic spread like wildfire. The remnants of the allied forces turned and fled in terror, running as though death itself were at their heels. Each man sprinted for his life, knowing that even a moment's hesitation could mean annihilation. And thus, the allied shinobi forces collapsed completely. Phew, that took a bit more out of me than I expected. Returning to where the third Reikage and the others stood, Uchiha Yuzuru let out a quiet sigh. Even with the power of the Yotsuki clan and the Chinook clan's bloodlines coursing through him, that last strike had gone a little overboard. An attack capable of killing thousands of shinobi in a single swing, the chakra and dijutsu power it consumed was beyond measure. Until I find a way to restore my Mangekyo Sharingan's power, I'd better conserve it, he thought grimly. Otherwise, no matter how much I have, it'll run dry eventually. The hoarder in him hated that thought. It made him feel dangerously insecure. After a moment of reflection, Yuzuru turned toward Orochimaru, who was standing nearby in a daze. Orochimaru, you should return for now, Yuzuru said calmly. I hope that next time we meet, you'll have accepted the fate I've given you. He knew Orochimaru's nature well. The man would never submit easily, but that was fine. With his power, it was only a matter of time before he brought Orochimaru fully under control. Unless, of course, the snake decided to disgust him again. In that case, killing him outright and using Ito Tensei later wasn't off the table. Orochimaru finally snapped out of his shock. His lips were dry. Instinctively, he tried to lick them with his tongue, but even that failed. After staring deeply into Yuzuru's eyes, he vanished in a flash. So this is the power Uchiha Madara once used to conquer the world, terrifying and yet beautiful. Compared to that, all his former achievements suddenly felt meaningless. Perhaps Yuzuru was right, human life really was too fragile. He no longer wanted to be human. Once Orochimaru was gone, the third Reikage, Fugaku Uchiha and Sakumo Hadake also recovered from their stupor. The third Reikage clapped Yuzuru on the shoulder, laughing heartily. Yuzuru, I didn't think you had power like that. Even I couldn't take you down now. His instincts told him that Yuzuru's technique could have easily torn through his lightning release armor, and with that massive range, even his speed wouldn't have saved him. And Sakumo could only sigh in awe. They'd both been training hard, hoping to surpass Yuzuru someday, But now it was obvious, there was no chance. Uchiha Yuzuru was a monster. Every time he fought, he shattered their understanding of strength. Fugaku, on the other hand, was beaming with pride, his nose nearly pointed to the heavens. That magnificent display just now was the true power of their clan. Remembering Yuzuru's elegant, devastating strike, Fugaku couldn't stop himself from trembling. Stylish, powerful, and unmatched, that was the true charm of pure-blooded Uchiha. If only he could awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan himself one day. Yuzuru ignored their gazes and turned to the third Reikage. Third Reikage, are you satisfied with today's battle? The Reikage grinned ear to ear, digging a finger into his ear. Satisfied, I'm thrilled. I've never had this much fun in my life. They had crushed their enemies and witnessed the godlike power of the Uchiha clan. Best of all, despite facing an army of 10,000, not a single cloud shinobi had died. It felt almost unreal. He looked down at his men and bellowed, "Tell me. Did you enjoy today's battle?" "Yes," they roared back in unison. "And whose credit is that?" "Lord Yuzuru's." "Then I hereby declare, within the land of lightning, Yuzuru's orders are equal to mine. By the authority of the Reikage, I grant him the same power as myself." Thunderous applause erupted below. "Long live Lord Reikage! Long live Lord Yuzuru!" Listening to the cheers, the third Reikage nodded in satisfaction. Ever since Uchiha Yuzuru had brought his clan to the Cloud Village, their strength had skyrocketed as if blessed by the heavens. After witnessing Yuzuru's terrifying might firsthand, the Reikage's conviction only grew stronger. So what if he shared some authority? With Yuzuru and the Uchiha on their side, Cloud Village could only prosper. And if it came to it, giving up his title as Reikage didn't sound so bad. People called him thick-headed, but to him, Hiruzen Sarutobi was the real fool. If Hiruzen hadn't driven away geniuses like Uchiha Yuzuru and Sakumo Hatake, the hidden leaf would never have fallen so far behind. Chapter 72, The Revolution Spreading Across the Ninja World, Compensation for the Wrong Chapter. No one could have expected it. The allied shinobi forces, upon whom all hopes rested, were annihilated. No, to call it a defeat would be an understatement. It was a complete massacre. The tailed beast bombs from the Eight Tails, the charges led by the third Reikage, Fugaku Uchiha, and Sakumo Hatake, and above all, Yuzuru Uchiha's final strike. It claimed the lives of thousands in a single instant. Out of the 10,000 ninja that made up the allied forces, fewer than 100 survived, excluding the rear-line commanders. Those lucky enough to live were forever shrouded in terror. Even Danzo Shimura and the other generals didn't bother to hold a meeting to discuss follow-up actions. They simply returned home in silence. At the start, when facing the third Reikage and the others, they still had confidence that with enough reinforcements, victory could be achieved. But Yuzuru Uchiha's final, world-shaking strike shattered that hope completely. Everyone knew power that great had a price, but none were willing to gamble their comrades' lives on whether Yuzuru's weapon still had any bullets left. The news of the allied forces' collapse spread swiftly, shaking the entire ninja world. Iwagakure. Kitsuchi looked at Anoki with open admiration. During the allied forces' assault on Kumagakure, Iwagakure had sent only 1,000 shinobi. Most were genin, while the few chunin among them were already past their prime, shinobi with little room for growth. Though their deaths were still tragic, compared to the devastation other villages suffered, Iwagakure's losses were almost negligible. "Lord Tsuchikage, you truly have foresight," Kitsuchi said earnestly. "You didn't see it, but that final slash from Yuzuru Uchiha was absolutely terrifying. Thousands gone in an instant. Even now, Kitsuchi still felt a chill down his spine. If Danzo hadn't insisted they stay in the rear, he would have been among the dead." Hearing his son's words, Anoki let out a heavy sigh. "It wasn't foresight. I once witnessed the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan myself. When my teacher and I faced Madara Uchiha all those years ago, that feeling of despair, Kitsuchi, you can't imagine it." Remembering the past, Anoki shook his head slowly. "With what I know of the Uchiha, this won't be the end of it. Kitsuchi, start stockpiling food and prepare money for reparations if necessary." Kitsuchi frowned. "Father, our village's funds are already stretched thin." Between maintaining our ninja forces and daily expenses, we can barely manage. Buying food and paying reparations, we just don't have enough. Anoki snorted coldly. Have you forgotten what I told you before? If Kumagakure could do it, then so can we. As long as we replace the daimyo and take full control of the land of Earth, do you think we'll still lack money? Once, such a thought might have been unthinkable. But now that Kumagakure had set the precedent, why should Iwagakure remain obedient to its daimyo? Wasn't it better to be master of one's own fate? And besides, Anoki doubted that after this catastrophe, Sunagakure, Kirigakure, or even Konohagakure would dare form another alliance to attack them. Kirigakure. Inside the Mizuki's office, the atmosphere was heavy. Lord Fourth, we failed. Nearly every shinobi we sent was killed. Kumagakure's power, it's far beyond what we imagined. Facing the battered Genji, Yagura Karatachi, the fourth Mizukage, showed a rare smile on his boyish face. Genji, isn't that a good thing? He wasn't particularly concerned with the outcome of the battle. Kumagakure's strength didn't matter to him. From beginning to end, he had only one goal, to weaken the bloodline clans that held power within his own village. And by that measure, the plan was going smoothly. Genji hesitated, torn. Even if our goal succeeded, what happens now? Kumagakure is full of battle-hungry maniacs. What if they turn their attention to us next? Yagura's smile faded. What matters now is consolidating our hold on the village authority. Everything else can wait. Short-sighted fool, Genji cursed inwardly. Then aloud, he said coldly. The bloodline clans suffered massive losses. They won't take this quietly. Lord Fourth, you'd better decide what you're going to do about it. With that, Genji turned and left the office. Once he was gone, Yagura sighed. Of course he knew the village faced external threats, but what could he do? If only he possessed power like Yuzuru Uchiha's, he could make those clans obey without question. But he didn't. In strength and in reputation, they would never submit to him. If he couldn't subdue them, then he would have to erase them. Still, Genji was right. The clans wouldn't stay quiet after losing so many elite shinobi. He'd need to offer them something in return. After a moment of thought, Yagura clapped his hands. An Anbu appeared before him. Tell the 7 ninja swordsmen, Yagura ordered coldly. Within 1 week, I want to see the daimyo's corpse. Sunagakure, the third Keizukage, slammed his fist against the wall, fury twisting his face. Elder Abizo had just delivered the news. All 3,000 shinobi they had sent were dead. And not just any shinobi. These were the elite of the village, the very backbone of Sunagakure's strength. The third Keizukage felt as though his heart were bleeding. Chiyo's tone was icy. Third, our village has suffered devastating losses and the civilians grow more dissatisfied by the day. What's your plan? What plan? The Keizukage roared. We'll do what Kumagakure did, kill the daimyo and use his wealth to pacify the people. And tell Rasa to go out and collect more gold dust. The daimyo brought this upon us, he'll pay for it. Chiyo let out a sharp, derisive laugh. So easily washing his hands of all responsibility. As if he hadn't been the one pushing the daimyo's orders in the first place. Sensing the tension rising, Abizo quickly interjected. If you ask me, the real culprits are those fools in Konoha. If they hadn't handed over the Uchiha Clan and Sakumo Hatake to Kumagakure, no village would have grown strong enough to upset the balance of the entire world. At that, both the Keizukage and Chiyo nodded grimly. Yes, the true blame lay with Konoha. If not for their stupidity, none of this chaos would have happened. Still, the thought brought them a small measure of satisfaction. If losing 3,000 shinobi hurt this much, how much worse would Konoha's pain be after losing nearly 4,000 elite troops? And the most ironic part of all, the 2 warriors who had shown such godlike might on the battlefield, Yuzuru Uchiha and Sakumo Hatake, were supposed to have been Konoha's own. Chapter 73, More Compensation. Konoha Village, Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi glared furiously at Danzo, Shimura, and Orochimaru, his eyes full of rage. Danzo, what exactly happened? Failure is one thing, but why were the 4,000 ninja troops you let out almost completely annihilated? It's only been 1 day. Even if they were 4,000 pigs, they wouldn't all be killed, would they? Look me in the eyes and answer. Seeing Sarutobi's rage, Shimura's expression remained unchanged. It's all because of Yuzuru Uchiha. his Mangekyo Sharingan was a little beyond my expectation. He killed several thousand of our ninja with one strike. In that situation, it wouldn't have mattered who went. Seeing that Danzo still dared to shift the blame, Sarutobi slammed his palm onto the office desk. Danzo, you were the overall person in charge this time. You must bear the responsibility. Upon hearing this, Danzo retorted unhappily, "Why should I? If you had listened to me and destroyed the evil Uchiha clan early on, would any of this have happened? Besides, Sakumo Hatache was forced out by you, so it has nothing to do with me." And Orochimaru, Danzo Shimura sneered. We had already surrounded the third Reikage and his men, but it was your disciple who suddenly cancelled the summoning jutsu, leading to the Eight Tails releasing a tailed beast ball and disrupting all our plans. Looking at Shimura's self-righteous demeanor, Sarutobi was so angry he laughed. Orochimaru was missing an arm, yet his old teammate was still trying to dump the blame on him. He truly wanted to be the Hokage. Sarutobi pointed at Danzo and said, word for word, "Starting today, you are confined to the root base. You are not to go anywhere without my command." "Fine by me." Danzo turned and left the Hokage's office immediately. "Orochimaru, you go tend to your injuries first." "Yes." Only after Orochimaru had also left did Sarutobi slump weakly into his chair, looking somewhat disheartened. According to the Senju clan's internal records, the initial stage of the Mangekyo Sharingan had severe drawbacks. Excessive use of the Mangekyo Sharingan's power would lead to permanent loss of sight. But Yuzuru, this lunatic, had brazenly used the Mangekyo Sharingan to launch such a powerful attack. He truly wanted to ask Yuzuru, "Why are you trying so hard? Who the hell is even in Kumagakure?" Just then, an Anbu appeared in the Hokage's office. "Lord Hokage, this is a scroll sent by someone from Kumagakure." Sarutobi's heart sank. He opened the scroll and took a look, nearly fainting on the spot. Those bastards from Kumagakure wanted them to pay another 10 billion ryo in compensation. They were treating Konoha like an ATM. "I'm gonna endure." Sarutobi raged inwardly, then let out a helpless sigh. The current Konoha truly couldn't withstand any more trouble. Isn't it just paying compensation? He was the best at this sort of thing. After pondering for a while, Sarutobi made his decision. Have the villagers of Konoha each contribute a little more money, and then have the major ninja clans contribute more. Finally, like Kumagakure, overthrow the fire daimyo and extract some money from those nobles and royalty. Calculated this way, there might even be some surplus. Konoha village. The street. You know the situation with the allied shinobi forces. Why haven't there been any updates for so many days? Nonsense. The front-line battle reports are definitely confidential. Do you expect them to report the latest progress to you every day? That's true, but I still feel a little uneasy. This time, our Konoha has teamed up with Kirigakure, Sunagakure, and Iwagakure to form the allied shinobi forces, and we also have the support of the various daimyo. What is there to worry about, exactly? As long as we win this battle, the humiliation we suffered before can be repaid 100-fold. Well said. This time, we'll also make Kumagakure pay us compensation and make the Uchiha clan come and offer an apology with thorns on their backs. Because only a mere few dozen people returned to Konoha with Danzo Shimura and Orochimaru, coupled with their intentional concealment, the villagers of Konoha still did not know about the defeat of the allied shinobi forces. Just as they were discussing heatedly, 2 Anbu members pushed through the crowd and posted a notice on the street bulletin board. After the Anbu left, the nearby Konoha villagers all curiously gathered around. The next second, their faces all turned grim. Are you kidding me? The allied shinobi forces actually failed. What the hell were they doing? Where did Danzo even come from? A person I've never even heard of. What right does he have to be the supreme commander? More compensation. After such a defeat, are they worthy of us? Although each family only needed to pay 5,000 ryo this time compared to the last, for the not-so-affluent villagers of Konoha, this was undoubtedly adding insult to injury. They couldn't even afford to eat properly, yet they still had to pay compensation. Many people had frozen to death in the winter. Their lives weren't like this before, so how did they fall to this state in just 1 year? Hokage's office. the Nara clan, a Kimichi clan, Inuzuka clan, Hyuga clan, Yamanaka clan, a Burame clan. The clan heads of Konoha's various ninja clans were gathered together, a rare sight. They looked at Sarutobi and said, "Lord Hokage, we have already lost many of our clan's elites in this war, and now you are asking each of our clans to produce over 100 million ryo in compensation. Isn't this a bit too much?" They had lost so many clansmen, gained no benefits whatsoever, and now they had to pay more money. Where in the world was the logic in that? However, facing the clan heads of the village's ninja clans, Sarutobi's attitude was unusually firm. He took a puff of his pipe and said solemnly, "With great power comes great responsibility, naturally. Everything is for the sake of the village." Hearing this, the expressions of the various clan heads were as though they had swallowed dirt. Someone was about to speak, but Sarutobi glared at them immediately. "I am the Hokage of the village. Are you intending to defy my orders?" Sensing the aura emanating from Sarutobi, the clan heads in the office exchanged glances and could only reluctantly accept their lot. When the Uchiha clan had left the village, they had actually celebrated, thinking they could carve up a larger piece of the pie. But the result was that the Uchiha clan was thriving outside, and they not only failed to get a piece of the pie, but also had to spit out a lot of their own interests. Thinking about it now, it was truly ironic. If they had been more supportive of the Uchiha clan back then, would things have turned out this way today? The ninja of Kumagakure paid no attention to what was happening in Konoha village, because every single one of them was busy with the same thing, writing thank you letters to the Hidden Leaf village. The Hidden Cloud village. New mailboxes could be seen on all the streets. In front of every mailbox stood many Kumagakure villagers. Their faces were all filled with excitement, and they were holding pens and notebooks, discussing non-stop. Today is the deadline for writing thank you letters to Konoha. Do you guys have any other ideas? None left, not a single drop. I feel completely drained. Ha ha ha. You guys are truly wicked. How can one letter contain so much? Those Konoha fellows will probably be furious when they see it, right? I don't care if they get angry or not. Anyway, what I wrote on it was truly from my heart. Heh. Let me see, let's exchange notes. The same scene was constantly playing out in different parts of Kumagakure. The third Reikage and others watched the joyous people of the village in the Reikage's office, their faces all filled with barely suppressed amusement. The third Reikage said to Yuzuru Uchiha, "Yuzuru, I have to hand it to you. You've got these big, gruff villagers actually picking up pens willingly. You know, normally, if we ask them to write a mission log, they would complain for a long time and start dozing off after writing just a few characters. This is the first time they've actively picked up a pen and racked their brains to write something." Mabuma laughed. "Lord Reikage, this is not strange at all. Just thinking about what Yuzuru is about to do makes even me want to laugh, let alone those people in the village. When people are doing something mischievous, their energy is practically comparable to a tailed beast." Hearing the words of the third Reikage and Mabuma, let out a cold snort from the side. He never expected Yuzuru to not only be monstrously strong, but also possess such a dark personality. He wouldn't dare to offend him again in the future. Otherwise, getting beaten up would be one thing, but if he were to be completely socially ruined by him, he would truly regret it later. Yuzuru didn't say much, only pulling Sakumo Hatake to the desk. "Sakumo, you also write a thank you letter to Konoha." Sakumo pointed at himself, surprised. "Me, but I'm bad at this sort of thing." "Not a problem, I'll help," Yuzuru said with a smile. "Write honestly about your impressions since you arrived in the Cloud Village, and emphasize your gratitude toward the third Hokage's contributions." Seeing Yuzuru's persistence, a wry smile appeared on Hatake's face, and he could only start writing. It was fine when he wasn't writing, but once he started, inspiration flowed like a spring. In a short while, he had already written a lengthy 2,000-word. After finishing, Sakumo asked somewhat sheepishly, "Yuzuru, I'm a bit inarticulate. Do you think this is acceptable?" Yuzuru gave a thumbs up. Awesome. Not only killing, but also crushing the spirit. Yuzuru felt that the lethality of these thank you letters towards those Konoha bastards was definitely no less than the 2 previous wars launched against Konoha. After all, physical injuries were easy to heal, but spiritual trauma was difficult to recover from. Just as the group was talking, Tadai pushed open the office door and walked in. Lord Reikage, Lord Yuzuru, the compensation from all the villages has been completely transported over these past few days. Iwagakure and Kirigakure each compensated 5 billion ryo, and Konoha village compensated 10 billion ryo. Sunagakure compensated 2 billion ryo, and also sent over some gold dust and jutsu scrolls. After hearing Tadai's report, everyone present couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Over 20 billion ryo, this money came too easily. If only such good things could happen a few more times in the future. After all, they hadn't paid any price other than consuming some chakra. Calming himself down, the third Reikage looked at Yuzuru. Yuzuru, you contributed the most this time. How do you think we should distribute this compensation? Although the allied shinobi forces only deployed 10,000 people this time, if it weren't for Yuzuru Uchiha's final strike that led to the collapse of the allied shinobi forces, this war might have dragged on indefinitely. After all, with the support of the Damio, the alliance of the 4 great ninja villages had both money and manpower. If they were dragged into a protracted war, Kumigakure might not necessarily have the final victory. Therefore, the third Reikage felt that, as the biggest contributor, Yuzuru Uchiha should rightfully be the one to distribute these rewards. Yuzuru wasn't overly humble. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Let's do it the same as last time. The Uchiha clan will take half of the monetary compensation, and the rest will be managed by the village. The jutsu scrolls will be shared between the Uchiha clan and the village. The gold dust, after purification, will also be split evenly." Yuzuru was not overly greedy. Although he did contribute the most to this battle, and no one would object if he asked for more, he would still treat others with equal respect. Including the compensation from the last time, the Uchiha clan would not be short of money for a long time. Since the money would just be sitting there anyway, it was better to use it for the construction of the Land of Lightning. It would be putting the resources to good use. Good, we'll proceed as you said. Like Yuzuru, the third Reikage didn't pretend to be modest and immediately agreed with his idea. After overthrowing the Damio, the Land of Lightning was currently engaged in infrastructure projects like building roads and bridges, a time when money was sorely needed. Just as the third Reikage was about to write a few ceasefire agreements for Tadai to send back to the other villages, Yuzuru raised his hand to stop the third Reikage. "Yuzuru, what is it?" Yuzuru said calmly. The other villages paid the full amount of compensation, but Sunagakure only compensated 2 billion ryo. "I'm a bit dissatisfied." Hearing this, Tadai explained, "Lord Yuzuru, the Land of Wind is completely desert. Both the population and resources are extremely scarce. 2 billion ryo is probably their limit. If you factor in the value of the gold dust and jutsu resources, the difference is not much." After hearing Tadai's explanation, Yuzuru still shook his head. "No, this." Seeing Tadai's pleading gaze, the third Reikage asked in a deep voice. "Yuzuru, what do you plan to do then? Do you want to attack Sunagakure?" He was somewhat against attacking Sunagakure. Even if they won in that kind of place, they wouldn't gain much in the way of spoils. Moreover, the other ninja villages might be watching them closely in the shadows. If they were to attack Sunagakure, they would definitely be stretched thin. If the other villages seized the opportunity to launch a surprise attack, they would be in a difficult position. Sensing the gazes of the third Reikage and the others, Yuzuru smiled. War is merely a means, not the goal. "It's all right if they don't have money. My intention is to have Sunagakure compensate us with a ninja who possesses a Kekkei Genkai." After hearing Yuzuru Uchiha's words, everyone's eyes lit up. If they could obtain a ninja with a Kekkei Genkai, the value would be immeasurable. "Good, we'll proceed as you suggested, Yuzuru." The third Reikage immediately agreed, so things could be done this way. Why hadn't he thought of this before? If it weren't for the fact that the other villages had already paid their compensation, and he felt uncomfortable going back on his word and making an outrageous demand, he would have definitely made the other villages compensate them, with a few bloodline limit ninjas as well. Mabuma and Tadai exchanged glances, both smiling bitterly. This Yuzuru fellow, Was he truly the descent of a demon child? With his personality of not wanting to suffer even the slightest loss, he would probably taste the brine even if a sewage truck passed by him. Compensation in the form of a Kekkei Genkai ninja. Only he could have come up with that. Yuzuru, of course, had no idea what they were thinking, or maybe he did and simply didn't care. Make sure Sunagakure doesn't try to fool us with some random offshoot. He told the rakeage before heading for the door. Yuzuru, where are you going? The rakeage asked. Yuzuru's lips curled into a grin. I'm going to deliver our thank you letters to Konoha. Chapter 75, thanks to our Konoha brothers for sending the Uchiha Clan Konoha village. The streets bustled with people, yet every face carried the same look of exhaustion. Thinking back on the past year, it was hard to believe how much had happened. First, the Uchiha clan defected. Then came the rampage of the Nine Tails. Soon after, war broke out with the Hidden Cloud Village. Not long following that, the ninja alliance formed by the Damio of various nations also ended in failure. After all this, both the ninjas and the civilians of Konoha were living in poverty. Many spent their days struggling to make ends meet, barely able to afford a single proper meal. No one had ever imagined Konoha would fall into such a miserable state. Suddenly, a few spiraling vortexes appeared in the sky. Moments later, countless objects began to fall from them. The villagers' expressions turned to panic. Oh no, we're under attack. It's explosive tags. Everyone run. Help, I don't want to die. Chaos erupted as the people scattered in terror, clutching their heads and sprinting in every direction. But soon they realized something wasn't right. The vortexes in the sky vanished and the expected explosions never came. Cautiously, people stepped back into the streets, only to see that what had fallen from the sky weren't explosive tags at all but letters. Strange, what's going on? No idea. Is the village putting on some kind of performance? Wait. Look, the envelopes say letter of gratitude. Seeing that there was no danger, the villagers began to curiously pick them up. Each envelope had the words letter of gratitude written boldly on the front. Everyone looked at each other, utterly confused, so much spectacle, just to deliver thank you letters. Even if someone wanted to thank them, did they really need to send this many? That almost scared them to death. Driven by curiosity, the villagers tore open the envelopes. A second later, their faces turned red with fury. Because every single letter had come from those bastards in the Hidden Cloud Village. Thank you, dear brothers of Konoha, for sending us the Uchiha clan and powerful men like Hatake Sakumo. You're truly good people. You probably don't know this, but our Cloud Village used to be dirt poor. Many couldn't even afford food, but ever since the Uchiha clan came, we've had so many mission requests we can't even finish them all. Even after raising prices, clients still line up to hire us. In that sense, Konoha has been a real benefactor to us. Anyway, I'm off to eat some barbecue. 8 meals a day now, and I'm stuffed every time, but what can I do? There's just too much money to spend. Brothers of Konoha, now that we in the Cloud have defeated the allied ninja forces, we're officially the strongest village in the ninja world. Guess what? You lost 10,000 men and we didn't lose a single one. This glorious victory is all thanks to the Uchihas you look down on. You know Yuzuru Uchiha, right? With a single swing, he killed thousands of your people. Hehe. Oh, and did you know the Uchiha had a ridiculous number of jutsu scrolls and training resources? Truly a noble clan. Our Cloud ninjas have all benefited greatly. Our power has skyrocketed. Also, the Land of Lightning is now booming with infrastructure, roads, bridges, houses. Everything's being rebuilt beautifully. Don't worry though, we're not spending a single coin. Your war reparations cover it all perfectly. Thinking about it now, if you hadn't driven the Uchiha clan away, how could we be living so well? Words can't express our gratitude. When we meet someday, we'll even bow to you. For now, this letter will have to do to express our deepest thanks from the Hidden Cloud Village. We must also extend special thanks to Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, Himura Mitokado, and Koharu Udatain. If it weren't for their constant oppression of the Uchiha clan and seizure of their assets, the Uchiha would never have left Konoha. And if they hadn't made Hatake Sakumo the scapegoat, the famed White Fang wouldn't have joined us either. Such great people truly deserve long lives. We hope they stay in power forever, because if they don't, we other villages will be the first to protest. Thanks again. Almost forgot. My Uchiha brothers asked me to tell you that after leaving Konoha, they realized it never rains outside the village. Everyone treats them like treasures now, and they're living happily. So please don't worry. And one last question. Now that all the people you hated have left the village, are you living happily? Reading those letters, the faces of Konoha's people turned crimson with a mix of rage and shame. Many trembled so hard they nearly fainted. Once they had lived in abundance while Cloud's ninjas starved, but now the roles had completely reversed. Konoha's citizens were starving while the Cloud was feasting on barbecue. 2 wars, countless comrades dead, yet Cloud suffered almost no losses. Their missions overflowed, their country prospered, all with Konoha's reparations. That money had come from every family's desperate sacrifices, and then they dared to wish Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, Himura Mitokado, and Koharu Uchiha long lives, hoping they'd keep control of Konoha. Who asked for your opinion on our Hokage elections? You just want those 4 to keep ruining our village, don't you? And at the end, you even have the nerve to ask if we're happy. How could we be happy, you bastards? If your people had died, your village gone hungry, your money stolen, you think you'd be smiling. Infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. This was no different from getting insulted to their faces. Life was already unbearable, and now they had to be mocked on top of it. What sin had they committed to deserve this? Yet no matter how angry they were, the villagers still couldn't resist opening more letters to see what else those Cloud ninjas had written. And so, cursing as they read, many ended up staying awake the entire night. Not because they weren't tired, but because humiliation wouldn't let them sleep. When the sun rose again, the eyes of Konoha's villagers were bloodshot, almost glowing red like the Uchiha's Sharingan. The cruelest kind of jealousy isn't seeing others live better. It's watching those you once looked down on walk away and find the life you always dreamed of, while yours only gets worse. The streets of Konoha were still crowded, yet eerily silent. After a long pause, a hoarse voice broke the silence. Do you think, if we apologized to the Uchiha and begged them to return, they'd come back? Konoha was built by the Uchiha clan. This is their true home, no one answered. The truth was plain for all to see. Unless every Uchiha had lost their mind, they'd never return to Konoha. Still, that question lingered in everyone's minds. If the Uchiha had never left, would their lives have been as prosperous as those Cloud ninjas described? The answer was obvious. Before the Uchiha left, that was exactly the kind of life Konoha enjoyed, peaceful, stable, abundant. Now, all the suffering Konoha faced was tied to their departure. In that moment, the villagers finally felt it, an ache of regret so deep they realized what they had truly lost. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and enjoying these novel audiobooks. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us grow faster. If you love revenge stories, overpowered MCs, rebirth novels, and fantasy audiobooks, make sure to subscribe and join the journey.